Hello and welcome. Our whole team at Snorkel is excited here to welcome you and to celebrate World Snorkel Day. We're so glad that you're with us. We've got over 12, we got 12 awesome educators and leaders lined up here to share the different ways that they're leveraging Snorkel, the different ways that you can leverage Snorkel. And we're really excited to celebrate that and share that with all of you today. Over the next several hours, we've got several different sessions. And so just want to outline what today looks like. And then I'm going to quickly pass it over to Kate and Nicole here in just a second so they can kick us off with Eduprotocols and Snorkel.
Yay.
So here is today's schedule, starting off strong with Eduprotocols. We're then going to be moving into talking about Snorkel and ELA, Snorkel and math, Snorkel and science, Snorkel in world languages and social studies. And we have a big innovation slam where we got a lot of different folks sharing and presenting different ways they're using Snorkel, and then ending the day with talking about bringing Snorkel to your school and how we can support you with that. So we're really excited for you to join us today. We're really glad that you're here. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Kate and Nicole, two awesome educators and leaders who are going to share with us a little bit more about AI Eduprotocols and that awesome community, and the ways that you can leverage Snorkel in Eduprotocols. So thanks so much for being here, and looking forward to seeing your engagement in the chat and engaging with you throughout the day.
Okay. And just in the chat, hi, Madeline, Miss Story, Jessica. We've got people tuning in from Dallas, Poland, Minnesota, New York, Massachusetts. Oh, I see friendly faces. Frankie, Kat Crawford, Elizabeth, thank you for joining us, and we're going to pop down and, yep, Kate and Nicole.
All right, well, welcome. We are two Maine teachers, and we're excited to be here to talk about Snorkel with AI protocols and Eduprotocols and being thoughtful about AI literacy. My name is Nicole, and I live in Maine and have been an educator for 20 years. And this is
Kate, and I live on the coast of Maine, where I have been a high school ELA and design thinking teacher for 23 years. And we are so excited to be here today on World Snorkel Day. Our plan for our time together is to look at why protocols are great in the classroom and why feedback is a really important and essential part of what we do. And then I'm going to share one of my favorite Eduprotocols, the Cyber Sandwich, with you and show how I use it with Snorkel to support my students. And then Nicole is going to share a protocol that we've created, also leveraging Snorkel to support students with AI literacy skills. So we'll dive into why protocols in the classroom. We've got a few reasons that we think that we use protocols, that we think you should be using protocols in your classroom too. The first is that they are grab and go. So once you know a handful of protocols, you really just plug in the content. So it's really fast planning. I will admit there are days that I plan my classes on my commute to school. So knowing a handful of protocols and being able to just decide what content it is, what skills we're working in, and plug it in makes it really grab and go. And when your students know these protocols too, when they know a handful of protocols, they can focus on skills and you can just run the protocol. And so it's quick and easy learning for them. Also, they're really easy to adapt. They can be adapted for every grade and every content area. Today, when I show you Cyber Sandwich, it's really going to be at a 7-12 level in an ELA classroom because that's what I teach. But protocols and Eduprotocols especially are really meant to be adaptable. So think about how they might fit in your context. Also, they're really engaging for students. Eduprotocols are timed, and so they're generally pretty fast. And I just think that there's something magical that happens in my classroom when I put a timer up on the screen, because all of a sudden my students feel like they have to beat that timer and they go right to work. My juniors, who can be a little jaded, are completely engaged every time we do a protocol. And also we can use them to teach AI literacy. So as AI technology continues to grow and expand all around us in real time, Nicole and I see a very real need to incorporate AI literacy skills into every content area. And we really think that protocols are a perfect way to do that.
So we also want to keep feedback, specifically AI feedback, at the front of our conversations. We know as teachers, as much as we'd like to, with one teacher with at least 20 students and sometimes times 4 for middle school and high school classes, that it's not possible to give immediate feedback to every student all the time, again, as much as we'd like to. So insert AI feedback with a tool like Snorkl, and it's a game changer. So students are getting feedback immediately. As teachers, we need to teach students to think critically about feedback, asking them to look at what the AI said and ask, do I agree? And if I do, what should I change? Or if I disagree, did the feedback give me something that I need to think about, either for this or for next time? So with AI, the emotions are not there. So the perceived obligation of having to use all feedback is gone. As a teacher, it's our job to use tools like Snorkl to model how to do this critical thinking around feedback.
All right, so with those two things in mind, let's dive into Cyber Sandwich. I'm super excited to share one of my favorite protocols, Cyber Sandwich. So if you're familiar with Eduprotocols at all, I suspect you know this one really well. And if you have not heard of Eduprotocols before, immediately run to eduprotocols.com. I also highly recommend all of the Eduprotocols books, just a little plug for them. There's a lot about Eduprotocols that I do not have time to share here. So if you haven't deployed Eduprotocols yet, definitely check their sources out first. So here's what you need for this Eduprotocol. You need a source for students to read. You need the templates that you can find on eduprotocols.com. You need 2 students, and you need time for them to read, compare, talk, and then write. Because this is one of my favorites, my students are super well versed in Cyber Sandwich, and they also think it's a lot of fun, which I actually found surprising at first, because as you can see just by the slide right here, it's a lot of work. But that's really the beauty of Eduprotocols. They can make that learning painless and really engaging. I think Eduprotocols and Snorkl are a perfect pair, because Snorkl gives immediate feedback to students, which is something that Nicole mentioned as being a really important part of the learning process. So because there are a few steps to this Eduprotocol, and I want students to get feedback on their notes as well as their paragraph writing, and I want that feedback to be separate, I'm going to pull apart the classic Cyber Sandwich template that you'll find online, and I'm going to make a couple of templates in Snorkl that students will use. So I'm going to call this version of the Cyber Sandwich Eduprotocol the deconstructed Cyber Sandwich. So before we look at the protocol, I just want to give a little peek into how I set this up in Snorkl. I really wanted to lean into and kind of test and try out Snorkl's AI capabilities. So I created the template on the whiteboard that you can see there. It's very simple. And I wrote the instructions. So those are my words taken from the Cyber Sandwich protocol for the students. But that's it. I then let AI autofill the rest, because the truth is, if I'm going to be using AI in my teacher workflow, it needs to be making me more efficient. So this expected answer that you see here on the screen is actually created by Snorkl's AI. And it really matched up to what I would be looking for from my students in the Cyber Sandwich protocol. So this template can be used over and over. Anytime I want to do a deconstructed Cyber Sandwich, I can now just go to this template. So again, it's a huge time saver, which educators, you know, we are always looking for ways to save time. So my work is done. There it is. And now we can begin the deconstructed Cyber Sandwich. So the protocol gives students 10 minutes to read and annotate an article that you've given them. Because I want to focus on AI literacy in this lesson that is part of my argumentative writing unit, I have given each student in the pair a different article. So student 1 has AI is beneficial to society, and student 2 has an article titled AI is not beneficial to society. Here's where the magic comes in, right? Like I set the 10-minute timer, put it on the big screen, and students go to work immediately reading and annotating their text. They really do get right to work. When the timer goes off at the end of 10 minutes, they go to the template in Snorkl. They can see my instructions there in that top corner. They can toggle that off. So if they don't remember what to do, they can always pop those instructions open and see what it is that that they need to be doing next. They then get 10 minutes. So another timer goes up on the screen to complete this template with their notes. And then once the template is completed, they discuss their views. So they're going to sit together with this template and type in their notes. So what did student 1 annotate in their article? What did student 2 pull out as key ideas from their article? And then what are the similarities and differences? So here you can see that student 1 noted that AI can automate repetitive tasks and that we need to use AI responsibly. And student 2 noted from their article that we need to move cautiously and think about ethical issues around AI use. And together, they both noticed that both of their articles mentioned the need for rules and regulations. So at the end of 10 minutes, they hit record their screen, they explain their work, and then they submit that work for feedback. So here's what the feedback looks like for students. Notice that it did catch that they need to give more detailed explanations and examples from the reading, and that they also need to dig a bit deeper into the similarities and differences in the article. And I can go in too and comment on the response, really pushing them to revise. This goes back to what Nicole said about the need for students to think critically about the feedback that they get. It really creates student agency. Again, they have to think about what feedback they want to take, what feedback they don't want to take, and then decide what they're going to do with it. So Snorkl gives them that immediate feedback so they can practice doing this. There's no way that one teacher in a class of 24 students can give this type of formative feedback in these Eduprotocols as quickly as Snorkl does. So I view Snorkl as a teaching partner in this sense. I'm walking around giving feedback, and Snorkl is giving that immediate feedback as they work. So these students decided to go back to their template and revise it, which Snorkl noted in their second round of feedback. So you can see they did go back in and pull some more examples and some very specific details and spent some more time really looking at the similarities and differences. So the feedback from Snorkl improved their work in the Cyber Sandwich Eduprotocol, and we end up with some great notes, some great thinking, and some great discussion. Now, this is where the deconstructed bit comes in, because unlike the original Eduprotocol, they're going to actually go into a new template because I want them to get some separate feedback. So the next part of the Cyber Sandwich Protocol is that students take this information, they've taken notes, they've had great conversation with their partner, and write a paragraph. So each student is now going to have their own Snorkl template where they'll get that individualized feedback on their argumentative paragraph writing. So the prompt asks them to take a stand and write a paragraph using claim, evidence, and reasoning. And because they have that first template where they took notes, they can use it to support whatever position they decide to take. So if student 1 decides that AI is not beneficial to society, they can use the notes from their partner. So students write their individual paragraphs in their individual templates. They record their screen and submit it for feedback. Again, they're getting that really fast individualized feedback on their writing, and then they can decide what their next steps are from there. That is a deconstructed cyber sandwich in Snorkl. In this case, it's a really easy way to get students thinking about AI, and it's a protocol that you can repeat over and over with any content at any grade level.
All right. So Kate shared about Eduprotocols, so I'm going to mention them again. If you haven't been to the website or you don't have the books, like she said, run, go get them because they are amazing. I think there's a lot of just help, and with the overwhelm that teachers feel right now, these Eduprotocols can help us to just have something that's consistent and for both teachers and our students. And I think in the long run, it gets better work out of our students because it's consistent. So along the same idea, we've created some AI protocols that lean into the AI literacy piece and give the tools to teachers to teach with and about AI. We want you to be able to use these in all contexts so that whatever topic you're teaching, you can adapt it, grab and go, just like the Eduprotocols. And it's something where AI is going to be infused into all classrooms, not just ELA or not just STEM classes, but it's throughout. So this protocol is lateral reading geared toward questioning and thinking about our sources and where we're getting information. So here's our basic recipe. If we're thinking about students having an original source and then across tabs laterally, students verify and question the information and the authors of the original source. So kind of our original template around this and breaking it down a little bit further is we call this the truth tracker. So students have a source. This could be a variety of things, from a Facebook post to an AI generated work. And yeah, I did say Facebook post because our kids are doing and getting sources from things like TikTok. So let's practice really checking those sources and looking at them laterally, as well as the good sources that you guys want them to check as well. Depending on your content, you can choose the source that the students need, or you might have them choose it. And that's where they may lean into something like TikTok. I would suggest students learn to do this in a variety of sources as well as a variety of devices, because ultimately, I think if we can teach students, and maybe it might not be laterally where there's several tabs open, but maybe they're following that link on whatever post they're on and checking it before reposting it. So really thinking about that. Once they have a source, they open up new tabs to investigate topics, facts, and organizations from the original source, thinking about what information is true and what perspective, who wrote this, that the source is coming from. And then wrapping it all up, students are drawing conclusions about the original source from what they learned through the new sources. So what does this look like in Snorkl and the ability to give students immediate feedback about what they're doing? So I created a prompt. The first thing I did was create the structure. So in this case, that looked like 3 boxes, one for the thoughts around the original source, and then 2 more for 2 other sources or tabs. As teachers, you could choose to add another box. It was just easier to do those 3. And then at the bottom, the yellow box is where students are going to draw conclusions around the original source based on the new information they've discovered. As far as the feedback part, I did have the AI generate it, but a nice part of this is that then I can take and add or change it to modify for what I need. So in some cases, you might want to have students lean into who is the author and what is the perspective that they're coming from. And in other cases, you might be really focused on what evidence backs up the original source. Or maybe like in Kate's situation, you're having them look at 2 opposite sides. So you can really modify what the feedback is going to give. And I would say also at the same time, leaning into that AI piece so that will help you get a general idea, and then you can add or take away from it. I think anywhere we can save time, it's super important. So then what does this look like? So this slide is an example of the output. This example doesn't have boxes. I formatted that afterwards. You can see that I looked at a source about AI and then used another source to find similar information. So the AI gave me feedback about what I was doing and gave me suggestions to make it stronger. It encouraged me, which I really liked. I would model this process of receiving feedback from AI first. And so that way you're teaching students how to receive AI. The AI feedback said that I could give more specific examples or quotes. So when I look back, I can agree and I say I don't have specifics, but more generalizations. So maybe then as a student, I'm going back and I'm looking for those specifics, and I can take that feedback and use it. The second part of this was about formal tone. And I may receive that differently, thinking that for a school assignment, the tone I used is okay, but noting and thinking about the future of whatever I'm writing, I may need to use a different tone. So I'm taking, again, that feedback and I'm picking and choosing. The first one, fit in. Yes, I've got to add those examples. But that second one is more of a, okay, that's good feedback for something I might write later. So thinking critically about any feedback, especially AI feedback, is important. As a teacher, this is also information that I can use so that when I'm prompting and figuring out what I need to add, and maybe as a teacher later on, I want to add something about the tone, I can do that. What specifics can I give to give the best feedback? And Snorkl has a nice guide to help us guide this along as well. So that tool is there for you. So the next slide, you can see I have the structure there. This time I really focused on who the author was. I still had the same format with the feedback and everything like that. This feedback was spot on and even gave me a strategy. So it's not just saying like good, bad, change this, but like you could do this to organize your thoughts. So it's that next level of feedback. The other things that I can do as a teacher is go in and edit the feedback. So I really liked this feature. I think anytime there's an AI where it's just AI and that's it, that's a little scary. So anytime that I can add and make it my own, that's important. So I've got this set of feedback, and that bottom right-hand corner gives me a little edit button. So what I know about the student, I can add and change things and then give that feedback or additional feedback to students. So it's both. It's making our lives a lot easier with the AI generated stuff, but it still keeps that human in the loop, which is so important. So I hope you'll go and you'll try Truth Tracker AI protocol with your students, teaching them ethical ways of using AI, and use it with Snorkl to get students immediate feedback and think critically about feedback and sources. Again, we are Kate and Nicole, and we're two main teachers. We're excited about Snorkl, and we hope these protocols will be something that will help you to use this amazing tool, and you'll really teach your students about getting feedback. You have an amazing lineup for the rest of the day, so we hope you have a fantastic day.
Thanks so much, Kate and Nicole. I really, really appreciate you sharing and just the different ways to leverage these protocols and getting students into deeper thinking and sort of structuring class around feedback. That can be so powerful, and the ways that you can do that with Snorkl. So I really appreciate you kicking us off and sharing all of that here with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
As we were going, we were trying to answer the questions that came up in the chat, and I think we got to all of them. But if folks have additional questions about Eduprotocols, you can check out their website. They also have a really active Facebook group and community, so you can dig in there as well. I am going to pull up here the schedule for today, and really excited to get into some of these other sessions that are coming up. We're going to move to ELA in just a couple of minutes here, and then to math. And we're actually going to go through different subject areas where you can leverage Snorkl throughout today. But I just want to pause real quick and say that if you haven't checked out snorkl.app yet, if you haven't been to our website, teachers, you can sign in there and actually create a free account. And so we'd love to invite you to do that. There's in the top right-hand corner of the button, there's that sign up button where you can create a free account. And if you are at a district and you are, or school or district, and you're really interested in leveraging Snorkl across your school or your district this year, we want to support you with doing that. We want to give you and your teachers the opportunity to really dig in and try the full Snorkl experience this year. And so we're offering full year, reasonably priced pilots where we'll get you and your team in to access Snorkl, the admin dashboard, and support you with rollout. So we're offering this at $1,000 for the year for your school, or $2,000 for your district, for up to 5 schools. And if you have more than 5 schools, we'd love to talk to you more about it. But I just want to give a quick plug here. So if you are interested in the pilot program, you can actually sign up today and apply today. It's at snorkl.app when you go to the plans page, and it's right here, Lighthouse Leaders Pilot Access. We'd love to talk to you more about it. And with that, I want to bring Amanda Fox here on the stage and pass it off to her. Amanda, are you there?
I am, and I'm
All right.
super excited to talk a little bit about Snorkl and English language arts and literature. So
Awesome. Great.
I'm going to go ahead and queue up my presentation here.
You're getting some love in the chat here, Amanda.
Oh, goodness. Yay. I'm just making sure I've got the right screen here. All right.
Awesome.
Here we go. Okay. Oh, I got no cosplay today. Oh no, I'm a mermaid. So I got my mermaid hair on today. So I'm excited. So you know me, I'm full of puns. I like lots of graphics. I like excitement. So the AI aquatic is kind of where my mind went when I was thinking about themes. And I'm excited to share a couple of different snorkel activities and also some acronyms because we're teachers and we love acronyms. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this into presenter view. Okay. Everyone can hear me well, no lag. Yep, perfect. Okay, so on social media, you can find Snorkel everywhere. We have an amazing Facebook group if you haven't joined it. And I'm going to share the presentation link with you in the chat like afterwards, so you can follow along. And, you know, find us on Twitter, YouTube. There's going to be some great YouTube tutorial videos coming out, LinkedIn, Instagram. Give us some Instagram love because we need some love on Instagram. So there are a couple of things that I want to talk about with Snorkel feedback. So as a former ELA teacher, my strength and when I think of lesson planning, I'm always thinking about how can I leverage AI in the ELA classroom, which is usually the classrooms that are most fearful of adopting AI because students, you know, the whole barrier with cheating and with you know, how are we going to leverage assessment with all of the technology that's out there? How are we going to leverage assessment when it comes to student writing and student comprehension and understanding? So I've come up with kind of 5 icons that really hit home for me for why Snorkel is so powerful with feedback. So if you're in the ELA classroom, the feedback feature can be amazing in terms of grading. There's a lot of controversy around using AI for grading. I'm in a ton of AI and education communities online, and I've kind of noticed this divide. There's always this conversation with one person or with half the people on one side of the fence of, oh, is the teacher really grading if AI is doing it? But with Snorkel, you have the complete power to customize everything. It's your rubrics, it's your feedback, or you can use AI to help you better assess student writing and student thinking. So the first one is it's anchored in objectivity. So a lot of teachers have a lot of pressure when it comes to grading students from parents, from districts, from you know, from the students themselves. Sometimes students feel like, oh, I'm not doing well in Miss Fox's class, and it's because she doesn't like me, or the feedback I got was really, really hard, or you didn't even get to the feedback because you have 125 students. And you know, a lot of times with like when I use Flipgrid, or if I'd assign a graphic in Google Classroom or a graphic organizer, those graphic organizers kind of went there to die, which is a travesty because our students try really hard. You have those students who go above and beyond. So the fact that it's timely, it's relevant, and it's personalized, and also anchored in objectivity. So when we think about bias, it provides consistent feedback, and it reduces any bias that may come from the teacher side, or any, I guess, perception of bias that a teacher might have when grading, and it's blanketed. So it's like a steady approach to grading, and it doesn't matter where the student's skill level is. They're always going to get feedback that is relevant to where they are in their learning journey. Two, the navigational insights in the Snorkel platform are phenomenal. They offer a tailored compass to guide based on individual performance and class performance. So you can actually see how an individual student is doing. You can see the captions and get a snapshot of their response. And also in the Insights tab, look at how students are trending, what they're doing over time, and specific targeted interventions of what skills they're struggling with. And we're going to jump into the dashboard in just a minute. Also, it's a lifesaver for teachers. Again, going back to 125 students, when we're dealing with writing feedback and reading comprehension, it's really hard to get through providing that timely feedback. I'm not saying we don't do it, but sometimes, we've moved past an activity or we're on to the next lesson before they get their work back, and they're unable to implement those changes and pivot. So the fact that it allows us to grade blanketed, timely, everyone at the same time, almost that instantaneous feedback where they can immediately go in and implement it and reflect and then resubmit with applications of that feedback. And also like our capacity is sometimes limited and we feel like we're drowning. So having that Snorkel AI feedback and in the background is truly a lifesaver. Targeted feedback. So oxygen tank for scaffolding. So for our students, sometimes they need that air and they feel like they're drowning in content or they're drowning in a specific standard or skill. So it provides them that air in the form of feedback that they need to effectively engage with the comments and instructions. Just as an oxygen tank supports breathing underwater, sometimes, we need to put the oxygen tank on our students and do some triage sometimes when it comes to remediation and scaffolding them to make sure that they're meeting that standard. And then differentiated journeys, number 5. For the first time ever, personalized learning is truly accessible with AI. Students walk around with phones in their pockets. And before, like I thought in 2013, wow, like our students have iPads, we can really, really implement personalized learning. But it still took a lot of work. This is making personalized learning ubiquitous to everyone. And it's kind of akin to a customizable nautical map. No one's map has to look the same anymore. No one has to take the same pathway to understanding. And with the interventions, the strategies, and the feedback that AI permits us to provide, it's just, we're living in a phenomenal time. So I created a World Snorkl Day class, and I have a couple of activities that are in there. And I would love for you guys to join from home. I'm just going to copy this link address, and I'm going to put it in the chat. So if you want to join along from home, I think I put the right link in the chat. If you want to join along from home, we are going to do some activities together. The class invite is TKLTQW. If someone wants to put that in the chat for me, that would be amazing and fantastic. So there are 4 specific templates that I'm going to show you today. And there were 4 different ways or strategies that I used to make it, because no one has to take the same pathway to create a new Snorkel lesson. And I have an acronym for you that's going to kind of help you understand the different ways that you can leverage lessons you already have, graphics you already have, graphics that you found, creating something from scratch, or being innovative and using AI outside of Snorkel to help generate some of your lessons. Because I created like a master prompt for you if you're just getting started with Snorkel to help you think about how to craft a Snorkel activity. So being an ELA teacher, we're going to focus on poetry and language arts. So the first lesson that we're going to look at, I actually pulled from the Snorkel library. You do not have to start from scratch. Inside Snorkel, you can actually go in and find activities. You can use them as is, or you can remix and reuse. Stranger meanings. I love pop culture, and I had this whole like Stranger Things unit that I did with my students, and we had waffle vocabulary words and all these fun graphics that I spent a lot of time making. You can import those into Snorkel and create activities to kind of take the load or the burden off of you in terms of providing that feedback, but also making sure that you're giving students that timely, personalized, and relevant feedback so they can immediately implement it and make their learning journey more swift and smooth sailing. And it even does stressed and unstressed syllables. Like John and I were playing around with this yesterday, but it does a great job at providing feedback in a ton of different contexts. And then also analyzing poetry. I'm a lover of poetry, and I've taught poetry units for years. It's been one of my favorite units to teach. And sometimes class discussions are great, but to really get a pulse on where all the students are and understandings of different concepts when it comes to tone, author's purpose, figurative language, I can't do that with 30 students at the same time. Maybe the ones that are talking in class and they're piping up, and I know where those students are, but the quiet ones sometimes tend to or the ones who sit in the back of the class, they tend to fall on the wayside. And this is the great way for silent check-ins and to really get a true pulse on your classroom and where every student is in terms of their learning. So my cheesy acronym that I've created for you today, when you think about creating lesson content, is SAIL. We want to make sure that you have smooth sailing into the new year with Snorkel. So my SAIL acronym is 1, select existing lessons. So use or remix existing lessons in the Snorkel library. A is adjust with remixes. You have been, or if this is your first year of teaching, you're going to have those co-teachers and those wonderful people who are going to just throw resources at you. And it might not fit your teaching style, or you could be teaching for 10 years and you have all these amazing resources, but you want to pick it up, you want to dust it off, and you want to apply a little bit of modern technology and AI to your lesson. So take those old lessons that you have, recycle them, adapt them, and you can fit them into Snorkel. You can make them more interactive. Paper and pen is great, but when we're able to leverage technology and not have to take home 125 papers in our backpacks that our dogs might eat, dogs can't eat digital content. So innovate new creations. Develop new lessons from scratch, tailored to specific needs. So one of the things I love about Snorkel is the ability to tailor, that it tailors feedback, and you can tailor lessons that are specifically suited for the students that are in your classroom. And L is leverage graphics. Snorkel is truly multimodal in the sense that we have inside of Snorkel, it assesses student thinking in terms of text, drawings, annotations. So when we're working with graphics, it makes the experience a little bit more visually rich for students, and it's a good practice to use different ways to communicate or activities the way students should be communicating their knowledge. So when you're hitting them a couple times with, all right, tell me what you're thinking, annotate what you know, define this word, now compare and contrast. You can take all these power verbs in your standards and you can implement them directly into student instructions and into a Snorkel activity. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to just exit out really quick of my presentation, and we're going to go into Snorkel. So being an ELA teacher, let's say I'm teaching 5th grade, and it's my first year. And I really need to look at some great ways, or maybe I'm new to Snorkel and I just, I really want to learn how the platform works. If you are just jumping in and getting started, start with the resources we have. Look at the way that the lessons are structured. So you have your home dashboard where your classes are going to be, your classes, and the library. So if you go to the Snorkel library, we have reading and language arts activities that are already developed. And you can make any of these go away by just clicking. We have third, fourth, and fifth grade. Middle school's coming soon, and because we have third, fourth, and fifth in the platform, I focus a little bit more on middle school and high school because that's where my heart lies. So, but we are going to take a look at a fifth grade lesson. So if we come in here and take a close look, we can see that it's broken down into reading literature, speaking and listening, language, reading informational text, and reading foundations. So and it tells you how many activities exist for each of these. And again, this is just for fifth grade. So we're going to go into understand figurative language because, again, poetry, figurative language, writing is kind of like the apex of like where I live in my world, like as a teacher, but also as a person. So we're gonna as we click, we can already tell, oh my gosh, I can try this as a student. Maybe you don't understand how Snorkel works and you want to learn how to use it. So again, starting with a lesson that's already here. So figurative language, expected answer. The correct answer is B, to show how coconuts were bouncing everywhere. So just preliminarily from looking at this whiteboard, I can tell that there's a passage and there's a question related to that passage. So those of you who are also doing test prep, which I hate talking about test prep, but I'm going to mention it because it's an evil necessity in the world of English language arts, because we have our checkpoints and we have our benchmarks and we have our students' performance that we're responsible for. And usually it comes from high stakes testing is where we're measured and where students are measured. Although it is just a score and it's just a number, it doesn't reflect the students' capabilities as their whole. We want to make sure they do well and we want to prepare them for these benchmarks. So we're just gonna, you can add it to your library. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add it. You can assign this directly to your class if you've already created one, but we're going to go in here and look what it looks like to try it as a student. So, okay, so we know we're gonna understand figurative language. Instructions. Oh, it reads it to the student. So talk about accessibility in UDL. We have that built-in audio component here where it will read it to the student. So now we're going to start the response. All right, so this is a basic whiteboard here. And we're going to go into how to create one after this as well. The man with coconuts. So we've got the passage of folklore from the Philippines. So we're looking at folklores. And I'm going to go ahead and read the question here. What is the most likely reason the author says the coconuts were jumping from the full baskets like escaping frogs? Now, the student's going to go in and record the screen. Maybe I already forgot my instructions because I'm that student that's like, Miss Fox, what are we doing again? So I'm going to click this button here. All right, so I just have to read the passage and answer the question. Pretty simple. So, and it can be as simple as they read the passage and they answer the question. So Juan had been laboring tirelessly for hours. He was harvesting coconuts. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. So A, because the frogs, we already know it's B because we saw that in the teacher dashboard. But it's recording my voice. This is great for going through and listening to students after the fact, after they've submitted something. So Juan had been laboring tirelessly for hours. He was harvesting coconuts to sell. Now I've lost time. That gets recorded. Their annotation, everything they draw on the whiteboard gets recorded. So the AI feedback is assessing my voice or assessing the student's voice, the student's reading pattern. And if you had like a compare and contrast, or if you had them maybe use a highlighter feature here. So we could actually go in. I'm going to end this review. I would hit submit here. It's probably going to say I did not read the whole passage because I was talking the whole time, but because it does a great job at picking up on words and matching it to what's on the whiteboard. So it's going to generate the feedback. And again, it provides closed captioning here. And it gives the student the option to respond again always, because the feedback is kind of like a glow and grow. It's like, oh, great job, you did this well, or you answered the question correctly. One of the things I love is even if they do answer the question correctly, I'm correct, but I'm 1 out of 4. You know why? Because I just jacked around and talked to you guys the whole time and didn't focus on my passage, which your students are going to do when they're sitting next to their friends sometimes. So good job on choosing the correct answer. You understood the figurative language. However, I noticed that you didn't explain why you chose option B. Can you tell me why the author compared the coconuts? I didn't, you know? And then again, we can listen to that. And we can always go up and respond again. So now that I've tried this out as a student, I know I've added it to my library. So I'm in student mode still. So I have to go back over to my teacher dashboard here. And we're going to go find that lesson. So if I go to my library, I've just added it. It's right here. You know what? I liked that, but I think I'm going to edit it. So it doesn't really, for me, I think it underutilizes all the tools. I want students to come in and highlight features too. Maybe I'm building on a lesson from last week where they had to, where they learned about adjectives or descriptive language or imagery, or maybe it was dialogue. So I'm going to have them go in and add a component, read the passage, and answer the question carefully. Highlight each example of figurative language, and let's see. We're just going to have them highlight here. So now I need to go back into the whiteboard because we've got that AI feedback component, but the AI feedback is also we've got the instructions here where they can listen to it again. You can come in here and you can add different instructions to a pre-existing lesson that's already here as well. And the AI on the whiteboard, or the AI is going to read the whiteboard in addition to the instructions to help generate an expected answer and how it's what other accessibility features are built into the system. Eagle EdTech, you should be able, hold on. I'm going to pivot here for a second. I'm going to go to done editing. The next thing you need to remember is the prompt question. You need to put the prompt question here. So we have the man with the coconuts. We have the passage here that's included, and then the question that's on the whiteboard, and then the expected answer. So when I highlight each example of figurative language and autofill with AI, it's going to change a little bit what the expected answer would be, and it's going to give you some whiteboard recommendations here. But I want to address your question. So if we go to the Snorkl library, when I click, it sends me into student mode and doesn't let me add it. What you probably did, so I'm still in student mode here. So what probably happened is in your other tab, you're in teacher mode. So you can come in, and for those of you asking or wondering what I'm talking about, here's the quote. Go back into 5, go back down to figurative language, and you try as a student. So when I click try as a student, boom, it opens me up in a student tab. I have to go back to that teacher tab, add it to my library, or assign it to a class that I've already created. So this is a fantastic way, number one, to familiarize yourself with the way prompting works in Snorkl. So if we go over to understand idioms here, try as a student. And I've already done this one. So I have feedback here. Great job on choosing the correct answers. However, remember to explain your thinking out loud. I see you've circled the correct answers, which is good, but you can also write down why you think. So again, going back to that multiple ways to answer, there's the annotation. Students can add text boxes. They can type their answers out. They can talk their answers out. And having that from an accessibility standpoint, giving them multiple ways to demonstrate their knowledge is fantastic. I had a student who was a voluntary mute. He didn't speak the whole year. Man, you give him an activity like this or a drawing activity or an Eduprotocol sketch and tell, he'd really, really get into those. Let's see. So that is creating select existing lessons in Snorkel. So going back to, and I'm just not gonna get back into the presentation because I'm going back and forth between the tabs. Stranger meanings. So denotation, connotation, euphemism, semantics. This is something, shades of meaning in writing, author's choice. Like why did you choose that word? Sometimes it's really hard to get students to understand the power of words and the power of being very particular of the syntax we choose to communicate things and the tone that we're trying to convey as a writer, but also understanding why authors do that. So shades of meaning is another activity, and this is a graphic I made in Canva, and big Stranger Things fan. So I had 7th grade students that related. So we have the positive connotation, and the negative connotation kind of lives in the upside down. So, and then the denotation, the literal dictionary meaning of a word. So in this activity here, I had students, if I go into back into my teacher dashboard here, I'm going to go into my classes here, World Snorkl Day. You guys have access, if you join, to all these activities to kind of see the differences here. So with shades of meaning, I can see you guys in here. Yay. Go ahead and give this a try. So here's my version. So one thing as a teacher, pro tip, always test out your lessons before you assign them to make sure that the feedback is working, that it's pulling from the whiteboard, that your instructions are clear. Because for this one, it says my feedback here, I got 3 out of 4. I feel like I deserved a 4 out of 4. And it came back to maybe something was wrong with the way I prompted it. So we're going to go in and look at the prompting in a second, but great job on your explanation and understanding. We're just going to listen to this real quick. Hear my audio? Okay. Okay. So I've got a setting set right now to where in my classroom, you can actually see other student responses. You can turn that off. Like, you don't have to have that on, but I've turned it on for the purpose of professional development to where you can go in and you can actually see the other responses from others. I'm going to go ahead and make this public here. And again, closed captioning. I'm going to go back. You've got your insights tabs, which is amazing. That it takes a few minutes to generate, but it's your performance trends. It's gonna kind of group your students to show you which ones need more scaffolding or remediation, which ones have got the skill. And in terms of flipping your classroom or creating those multiple pathways for students, there are students who can go ahead to the next lesson if you've got your content built out, and then you can spend time because AI is kind of doing these little mini conferences with students. You can spend that time with the students who truly need that remedial help, getting to that level of understanding with the standard. So we've got incomplete or incorrect synonyms, and then we have misunderstanding of connotation. Oh, Jeff, really? Is he on here? And then I made the lesson, so obviously I'm the top exemplar. So going back to our edit settings, so shades of meaning. So I just uploaded a graphic I already had, which is here. Nope. Go back real quick. In my instructions, provide the literal meaning or dictionary definition. 2, after defining the word, brainstorm 2 synonyms. So I've got the instructions that I put in here. Collaboration, students see peers' work. Yes, but only the top responses. Or you could have them see all or none. Student-to-student comments, I have them on because I love it when students are empowered to collaborate and provide that peer feedback. And allowing exemplars to be seen by other students is another teaching opportunity for them to have. It's another learning moment because as teachers, we're not the only ones who disseminate knowledge to our students. Other students in our classrooms are also powerhouses for that as well. Setting up AI feedback. So you can autofill with AI based off of the instructions here. And then the prompt and the question. So tell our AI what you're asking, describe the images in the graph. Make sure you put in a prompt or question here. And then it's going to, you can put your expected answer, or you can have AI do the work for you. And it's essentially going to come in here, you hit autofill, and it's going to generate this for you. There's all the different content areas you can tag it with. So this is using existing lessons or that you already have, recycling. The next is being innovative. Oop. So innovative new creation. So I created an acronym for you, and I have 3 minutes, guys. I'm very verbose. That English teacher in me it shoots me in the foot sometimes. But again, I'm going to share this presentation link with you. So public view link, this is yours to have. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. There you go. This is the acronym that I created that you need to think about when designing activities for students. 1, define the standard and key action verbs. Are they analyzing, describing, annotating, identifying student steps? Step 1, read the poem. Step 2, do this. Step 3, annotate or visualize it. Visualize through diagramming, text, and annotating. So it's more than just having tasks where they're spoken, or it's making sure that you're leveraging the full capacities of Snorkl using that annotative whiteboard, explaining, and then have them explain their thinking or reasoning. After they're done annotating, after they're done maybe adding the stress marks or unstressed syllables in a poem, have them go in and actually explain the poem's meaning in its entirety and how that contributes to the message and the overall meaning of the poem. Let's see. And here's a quick example. I love metaphysical poetry and John Donne. So this is a valediction forbidding mourning. Number 1, they had to define the term conceit. And you guys can read it. You have the present. Thank you so much. Make sure that you keep the acronyms to heart. Acronyms are silly. We use them all the time, but they're a necessary evil in this world, because in a world where we sometimes forget strategies, it's easy to be like, oh, I just need to sail, and sail means this. So
Amazing, Amanda. Thank you so much. I love the acronyms. Love the acronym dive, and just the sort of captures the rich different ways that students can share their thinking with Snorkl. They can record, they can explain, they can draw, they can type. There's so many rich ways to
highlight.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, really appreciate the different ideas that you shared there, and also just the thinking through different ways that can be leveraged in ELA. When we started Snorkl with the idea of giving students feedback on their thinking and problem solving in math and in science. And very quickly, we just talked to a lot of teachers who were like, this would be really powerful in my English class. This would be really powerful in my social studies class. And so we expanded to include those as well. So really appreciate you sharing.
Awesome. Thank you. And you guys have a great rest of your World Snorkl Day.
Thank you. I am really excited here to pass it over here in just a second to Emily to talk about Snorkel and math. And Emily is a teacher based out of Ohio who used Snorkel with her students in her math class this year. Right after that, we've got Farmer Fobs coming on to talk about Snorkel and science. And then we'll be moving into world languages and social studies. So thanks again for everyone who is here and participating in the chat. Really great to have you. And with that, I'm going to invite Emily here onto the stage. And there you are, Emily. Hey.
Hi.
Good to see you. And really excited to have you sharing with us, Emily, and excited to hear about the different ways that you've leveraged Snorkel and math and why you love it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to share today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, my presentation. So I tried to stay with the nautical theme as well here. Can you guys see that?
Not yet. Are you finding that present button at the bottom?
Yep, I clicked that. Let me try one more.
Rimi's keeping us happy here with the puns in the chat.
Huh, still not working.
A lot of great puns that could be made with Snorkel. When we first started off, I was talking to a teacher out in Hawaii who has she came up with an acronym for what Snorkel stood for. I'd have to look that up again, but we've had a lot of fun over the years with that name. No luck?
No.
Are you seeing the share screen option when you press that?
Yeah, it even says to say stop screen at the bottom. So
share screen. Well, and if there are other, are you doing mostly have slides, or do you have assignments you want to share as well? Because
nope, it's just slides.
Okay.
So it's like on Canva.
Yeah. Do you want to put the slides in our private chat and I can pull that up?
Yep. Let me. Sorry about this, everybody.
Not a problem.
Let's see if that works.
Technology is our friend until
it's not.
Yeah. Awesome. Let me know if I ever, I'll try to sort of figure out where the right time to go is, but if I'm not there, just let me know.
Perfect. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Great.
Just another quick introduction. My name is Emily Costanzo. I'm a 7th grade math teacher at Chippewa Junior Senior High School, which is a small school just outside of Akron in Ohio. I've been teaching math now for 7 years. So I've done 6 years at the 7th grade level and then 1 at the high school level as well. So I started utilizing Snorkel, started discovering it, messing around with it in November of last year, and then really started to utilize it when we came back from Christmas break and really revved up into state testing and reviewing and all of that stuff. And I've just loved it ever since. So I'm excited to share kind of 3 main teaching techniques that I use and what I used to do, and then how I utilize them now with Snorkel and how I made it better. So the first one, and normally the most obvious one when we think of math classrooms, is the traditional classroom. So like the traditional teaching styles. I know that when I was going to school, it was very much lecture style. Here's your notes. Here's your examples. Do these examples. If you don't understand it, that's too bad. We're moving on. And so obviously when I became a teacher, I wanted to revamp those traditional style teaching methods. There is a ton of times that I have used traditional teaching lecture style. I think it's a necessity in math classrooms. But like I said, I wanted to make it better. So it's very much like giving students a note sheet, and I do, we do, you do kind of situation. So sharing the main topics, getting vocab words to them. I'll go over an example. We'll do an example together. And then the students will do an example individually. the problems that I was struggling with was the individual practice. If I am doing like a lecture style classroom that day, I only get the feedback from one student at a time, which is something that I really struggled with because you have anywhere from 15 to 25 kids in your class. I need to be able to hear from every single one of those kids. So there was a big lack of opportunity to share. Then when we went into like more in-depth individual practices, like a game, like on another day, so like a Kahoot game or a Google slide activity or a scavenger hunt around the room, or even if it's just like a practice problems at the whiteboard. Again, I was only getting feedback from either kids that I got to talk to that day or kids that were sharing. So I wasn't getting the opportunity to hear from every kid. I also don't think that it was being placed into their long-term memory as well. So a big struggle for me is stuff that I went over in September wasn't sticking come January, February when I needed to build off of it. Or every teacher's favorite saying is, well, we've never learned this. You're like, yes, you have, because I taught it to you, but that's fine. So I needed a way for the information to really stick into their long-term memory. And the best way to do that is to have them verbally explain their reasoning. So that is why I started utilizing Snorkl. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So here's a quote by NCTM that basically just says that when students are articulating and justifying their own mathematical ideas through their own understanding and explanations, while also providing rationale for their answers, they understood it better, they understood it well, and they had more future success in math classes, which is so key when we teach math because, like I said, everything builds off of itself. So as a 7th grade teacher, if my students aren't understanding the basics of solving equations or aren't understanding integer operations, we're not doing our job here. And then the 8th grade teachers are like, what's happening? And then we have a big disconnect and we're falling apart. So that is one of the big reasons why I needed this to stick into their long-term memory, and one of the reasons why I decided to start using Snorkl. So not yet. There's a video that's going to play. But on the next slide, there is an example of one of my students who is using Snorkl in my classroom. And this example is a state release question. And you'll be able to see that it gives that individual support, but I'm also really understanding that they are getting the vocab words because I hear the explanation, and they're getting that individual feedback. So it's going into their long-term memory and they're getting that feedback. So we can go ahead and watch this next example.
So first you see that the line goes through the origin. So then you know the constant proportionality will be a whole number. So then you look up to see when the line intersects, and then you see it intersects at 2/4. So then you divide a 4 over 2 and get 2. And then that is your constant proportionality.
The one thing that I love about this, and I'm going to continue to talk about throughout this presentation, is the fact that this student scored a 3 out of 4, so got a great grade, but it still is pushing them to do better. Snorkl, the AI in Snorkl is really just trying to advance those students and get them to do better. But I was also providing very supportive feedback, and I can quickly see as a teacher, like, yes, my student is understanding this. The explanation is great. We're putting this into our long-term memory. So that way later on, when they go to write equations or whatever else they need, they understand what the constant and proportionality is. So my next teaching technique that I utilize in my classroom is a blended learning style. And blended learning is exactly what it sounds like. It is a mix of a ton of different teaching styles and methods all blended together in one classroom. So most of the time when I do this, it is in a station rotation kind of style. So I have anywhere from 4 to 6 stations going on at one time. And kids work through 2 of them normally in a day, depending on what the activities are. These stations range from a teacher-led station, group work, individual work. It could be work at the boards. It could be technology, no technology, a huge mix of everything. When I did this at the beginning of the year, my biggest struggle was that there's only one of me. And you're a teacher, you understand that struggle so much, especially in a class of 15 to 25 kids. Like, you feel like you're spread so thin. So with me only being one teacher, I needed a way to be able to reach all of my students at one time and give that feedback and give that help all the time. So there was, only me as a teacher was really big struggle, because if I was doing the teacher-led group and I needed to go help an individual group, I took away time from them, but then I also needed to provide that feedback and that help to them. So it was really just a struggle of like, I can't be everywhere in one time, which was frustrating for me. It was frustrating for the kids. So we had that problem rise up. There was also a lack of instant feedback. So a lot of times in math, it's very easy, to say that, or to get really frustrated when you're doing something wrong, but you don't know why. So I see that a lot with 7th graders. So being able to be like, hey, this is where we're going wrong, let's fix it, and not have to wait for me, it was something that I really needed. Another thing that I noticed that I needed that I didn't do enough of in my classroom was advancing the students who are ready to advance. If I saw a student got a correct answer, I don't know how they got it. I don't know what they did to get that. I don't know if they copied or if they're using the right vocab. So making sure that the students who are getting it right are using the correct vocab, are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if they're ready to advance and we're supposed to be pushing them in the right direction to advance, that we are doing that, which is something that Snorkl does a great job of as well. There is another quote that I have for you that says, that students who get instant feedback, and this quote is from the Journal of Educational Psychology. Students who get instant feedback get a 20% higher success rate on tasks that are in the future than students who don't, which is great. And of course, I'm a math teacher, so I'm going to throw some stats at you guys. So we're at a 20% higher success rate if these students are given that instant feedback, which is super important. So again, that's why I started utilizing Snorkl, was because Snorkl provides all of that instant feedback. And then it also is making sure that when the students are getting it correct, they're getting it correct for the right reasons. They're using the correct vocab. And we were really pushing the students that, hey, you know how to do it, but are you using the correct vocab and all of that stuff? So on the next slide, I'm going to show you guys
4 times 2 is
Thank you. I'm going to show you an example of a student who got the incorrect answer and how the AI gives the feedback for that. Then I will show you an example of a student who got the correct answer, but then how Snorkl really is like, hey, how can we make this better even though you got it correct? And then my last example, or my last video for this section is a fun new feature that Snorkl is going to be coming out with that I'm super excited to share with you guys. It's called Snorkl Coach. And I'll explain it when I get there, but super exciting. So here's an example of a student who didn't get it correct, and then we'll talk about that.
4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times negative 4 is 16x. Plus negative 3 is 19x. And then you put the 65 down, you put the 8 down, to negative 8. 8 minus 65 is 57. And 19 goes into 57 3 times.
So what you can see that the AI says that, hey, you got it incorrect. They got a 2 out of 4. The one thing that I really love is that they're telling them they're pointing out the mistake, but they're pointing it out with a question, which is something that, again, I love. It's like a teacher in every kid's computer, because you're actually like, this is the exact same way that I would do it too. Instead of like their friend being like, oh, you missed this negative, or, oh, you just did this wrong. Like the Snorkl is like asking the questions, which is great. But there's so many times where I've given students equations like this and they've done it 3 times and they still don't know where they mess up. So that can get really frustrating for the kids. So getting this feedback, knowing where they messed up, but getting that support through questions is super important. So my next example is a student who did this question correctly.
First, I did 4 times 2, which is 8. Then I did 4 times negative 4x, which is negative 16x, minus 3x, which is negative 19x. Then I put a line in between the equation, or equal sign, and then I canceled out 8 and put negative 8 on both sides. 65 minus 8 is 57. Then I brought down negative 19x and divided 57 and negative 19x. by negative 19, which the answer is x equals negative 3.
So here for this example, if I was like giving a paper pencil activity, or if I was doing any other kind of activity, to be honest, I would have no idea that the student was saying canceled out 8 instead of saying like the inverse or inverse operation, blah, 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 blah. So the student got it correct, but the student is obviously ready to really focus on that vocabulary and making sure that explanation is perfect, which is something that I really love. So on the next slide is the feature called...
First I did 4 times.
Yep, and then this video will just play. There's no sound for this video, but it's called, yep, perfect, Snorkel Coach. And here you guys can see that I am able to, and this is just me doing this, trying to imitate my 7th graders as well as possible, but it's just a chat feature that allows students to chat with that AI. So the students don't have to wait for me to come over. If they're confused and they have no idea where to start, they can start this chat and it will walk through the steps for them. And when I say walk through, I'm not talking about giving them the answers. I am very much talking about this chat is just like a teacher. It is asking questions. It will break down the problem for you or for them and ask them to do it step by step. So it's just a really great feature that I'm super excited, and I'm sure you guys will hear more about it throughout the day. But whenever it does come out, I'm super excited to be using this in my classroom. So it's an awesome feature. I do get this wrong on purpose, just so everybody knows. Just to kind of see what the feedback would give us. So here, like I got the equation wrong and it said like almost there. Remember that the snorkeler is diving down 30 feet. So then I corrected it and they said that's correct. So what is the answer? Again, I got it incorrect. So then they were like, okay, let's go through it step by step, which is exactly how I would do it if I was working one-on-one with the student. So then finally the student gets to the correct answer, but then don't forget, they still have to be, they're still responsible for going back and explaining that as well. So knowing what they did wrong throughout the process is going to help them with their explanations and getting the correct explanations later on down the road. So super excited for that to come out. And I think it's just a great thing for that instant feedback and for that support throughout the classroom that one teacher can simply not provide. All right. And then the last part, or the last thing that the last teaching technique that I utilize in my classroom comes from the book, Building Thinking Classrooms in Mathematics. If you're a math teacher and you have not read this yet, I highly recommend. Mine's sitting right here, and it is like worn and used and has sticky notes all over it because I love this book. It has so many great ideas. So I'm going to share some of those great ideas with you. And then I'm also going to talk about, again, how I use those ideas and incorporated Snorkel to make it even better. So the idea behind this book is we are starting by putting students into randomized groups that students see are random. So the students are walking into your room, you're randomly putting them into groups. I like groups of 2 to 3. So we're putting them into groups, and then we are letting them work at the whiteboards. I guess it could be any vertical non-permanent workspace is what we like to say in the book. But my room is behind me, and I have a bunch of whiteboards here. So we love to utilize the whiteboards. And then we're giving the students high quality questions. So it's not just, hey, can we solve this equation? It's not just, can we do these integer operations? It is high quality questions. It is problem solving, thinking skills that get the students communicating about the math. So we love the group work. We love the communication because, as we know, the communication is super important, which is why we love using Snorkel. But we've all been, or I've been at least, in groups where people in the group don't always do their fair share. And I've seen it in my classroom time and time again, where students will start complaining, this person's not helping me, this person's not doing this. So I really struggled with that lack of student accountability, not knowing what was happening when I wasn't with that group. And again, there's only one of me. I can't be with every group at every time. So getting that lack of student accountability was something I would struggle with. Again, I told you, I like my numbers. I like my stats. So I found another stat by NCTM that states that 74% of students reported that they felt more engaged and understood the math content better when they were able to discuss their problems with their peers. So be able to verbalize their understandings with another person, bounce ideas off of them, is something that I really like to utilize in my classroom. So I wanted to keep this communication and collaboration going while also holding each student accountable and knowing what they were doing and what they were understanding and taking away from it. So that's why I decided to utilize Snorkl within this. And I kind of have two ideas how this could work in the classroom, in two different ways that I've done it. And then on my example on the next slide, it's actually just me doing it. But we'll talk about that when we get there. So the first idea is having students come into your room and putting up a problem on the board. And I do have an example of like a problem that I would give my students, and put them in their partners, their groups, and then have them start working on the problems. They'll talk through that problem, they'll solve it. And then they would take a picture of their work. So with their Chromebooks or devices, whatever they're using, take a picture of that work. And then individually, so break off their partners or their groups, they would go and they would explain that problem. So that problem would be an assignment that I would have created in Snorkl, and they would upload their work, their picture work, into the Snorkl activity and then have to explain it individually. That way you would understand, like, hey, was that student paying attention? Was that student working in the group? Were they understanding what they were supposed to be understanding? So that's way number one that you could do it, is using the question that you had from that class that day. Or you could approach it the same way. So start it, the problem, have them work in their groups going through it. And then you as a teacher check their work when they're done. So say, hey, yep, that's correct. That's good to go. Now that you guys are done with that, I want you to go onto Snorkl, and I have a similar activity uploaded, different question, maybe different approach, but same idea. Let's see what you understand now that we're done talking in the group. And then having them do that individually. From there, they could then come back to their group and watch each other's videos and make comments on each other's videos. And it's just like a great way to be like, oh, I didn't think about that when I explained mine, but I remember us talking about that. I just left that out. Like, that's a great idea. Or so on and so forth. So then listening to each other's explanations at the end and going from there. And you could utilize that collaboration and communication with either approach that I gave. So on the next slide, here is an example of a problem that I might give my kids at the beginning of class that would have them work through it. So this one is just students buying school supplies for the beginning of the year. There's two different stores. They're both offering discounts. So we need to buy different supplies of each. So we're talking about backpacks, notebooks, pencils, and then they're getting a 25% off discount of that one. At store B, they're buying the same supplies, again, different cost, and then they're getting a $15 discount. So not only are we working with percents, we are working with integer operations, we're working with decimals, a lot of different ideas applied here. So it really gets the kids thinking about what they have to do. So then it says, like, calculate the total cost of store A and B, and then determine which store offers a better deal. So from here, you could either then have the kids take a picture of their work and then individually explain it. Or what I did for this one was I found an example that Snorkl already provided in their bank of questions, which the math bank of questions are phenomenal. I love them. So if we go to the next one, you'll see one of the questions that I did as a teacher, and see my explanation for it, and you'll see how it relates. So I started by finding off what 30% of 200 was. So I took 30% and turned it into a decimal, which is 0.3. And then I took 0.3 and I made it into a fraction, which was 3/10. I then decided to use the giant one method and figure out how many times 3/10 will, like, what equivalent fraction 3/10 is to 200, like something over 200. So when I set that up like I did in the picture, I got, I multiplied it by 20. So 3 times 20 gives me 60. So I know that 30% off of 200, or 30% of 200 is 60. So then I did 200 minus 60 and got 140. For airline Y, I know that a fourth of 240 means that I just have to divide it by 4 to figure out what a fourth of that is. So I took 240 and divided by 4, and I also got 60. But when you take 240 minus 60, you get 180 instead. So I know that airline X is going to be cheaper at 140. So this isn't a question that I created. Again, this is a question that came from Snorkel's Bank of Questions for 7th grade math. And you could see how closely it is related to that question I gave them, but obviously different, still working with percents. This time we threw in a fraction, but a great example, which is something, kudos to Snorkel for their questions, because they're all awesome. They are all problem solving, multiple steps. And so I love using the bank of questions here. And again, there's a picture of me doing this at the board, this example, so you guys can see like, hey, we take a picture and then we can upload it, and that will work too if you really like the kids working at your whiteboards or whatever it is. So a great feature. Another feature that is really nice is that the AI will actually like grade the picture too. So my 7th graders, this happens all the time. They'll just say, see picture for example, which is obviously something we don't want to do. But if you go to the next video, see the picture for answer. So again, I was just trying to imitate what my 7th graders would do, but it still says that I got it correct and I did no explanation. So you know that obviously this is not something that I promote in my classroom, don't want them to do, but you know that it is grading their picture, and it is actually looking at their picture and seeing that they're doing the work as well as the explanation, which is something that is so beautiful. We love that. So not only getting a good explanation, but also checking the work in math is great and is a cool feature. So hopefully you guys were able to take some examples away from today's presentation. And it was awesome to be able to present for you guys. So here's my contact information if you ever have any questions and you want to reach out. I'm always open and love to share ideas with you guys.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Emily. I really appreciate you sharing today and just getting to talk to you throughout the year and how your students were using Snorkel is really, really cool. So again, super, super grateful.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the rest of your guys' day. Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to pull up my screen here and share once again. And I'm really excited to invite Farmer Fobs up here in just a second. We are, if you're just joining us, we are working our way through the day here on our Snorkel journey, talking about different ways to leverage the platform for learning in different subjects and different settings. And so we just heard from Emily about math class, and I'm really excited to invite up our good friend Farmer Fobs to share about using Snorkel in science. If you don't know about Farmer Fobs is real active on the social channels, and look her up, and I know that you'll get something rich out of that. Let me pull you up here, Farmer Fobs. Welcome to the stage.
Hey,
Good to see you.
what's up, my guy?
Good to
Good to
see
be
you.
here.
Really great to have you here. We had a little tech issue here with sharing screens in the last session, so I hope you were able to share your screen okay. We'll find out if this works for you.
Hey, let's try it out. Share
I'll
screen.
stop mine there.
What do you think? Can you see it?
I'm not seeing anything yet.
You got to pull it up.
Oh, there it is. And that was the mistake that we probably made in the last session. It was my fault. Awesome. Well, great to have you here, and thanks for joining us for World Snorkl Day. And I'll pass it off to you.
All right, my man. I'm a big fan of John's, and just a quick story of when I met these guys. I went to the air show. What was that, April? I mean, it's not too much long ago, and I met these guys, and they literally were just walking around the air show with their snorkel shirts, and I think that speaks volumes. Yep. And then at ISTE, they did the same thing and they walked around with that. So I just love it. Like, I walk around with a cowboy hat and overalls, and they just match my vibe. So this is a tool. When I when I saw it on social media and people kind of starting to mention it, I dove right in. So I'm going to kind of talk about why I dove in and how I've used it with the classroom. So let's get started. All right. So we're making waves in the classroom. Literally, we're going to dive into science with Snorkl. And so I just always showcase, like, this is a Microsoft designer. So I just love being creative and personalization. And it really goes into why I use Snorkl. All right. So howdy, y'all. My real name is Alyssa Fabian, aka Farmer Fobs, and follow my yeehaw moments. I'm on Twitter, I'm on X, I'm on Instagram, all at Farmer Fobs. And so I pride myself on really showcasing how I'm using ed tech with students. I got started about 5 months ago, just, putting some videos together on how I use ed tech, and creativity, right, and collaboration. And so, I'm one of the babies in the group, but it's been a really, really fun ride. All right, so this is me saying, I've been telling y'all. I literally have been telling y'all on social media about Snorkl. I'm probably one of the first users of Snorkl, and I always say I find all these ed tech tools on social media because I just really love about learning and using it with the students. So it's definitely me showcasing how I use it with students, and my first group that I used it with was a group of 4th grade students. So shout out to them. They are always ready to dive in. Benefits of voice and interaction in the classroom. And it was really important when I was putting this slide deck together, was I really thought about what I really love about Snorkl. You guys have been, you're here 12 to 4, and I'm sure that, people are talking about, this is how you use Snorkl in the classroom. And I wanted to literally dive in a little bit deeper. Okay. And so dive in, wear your cowboy hat when you're diving in. And so there's 3 things that really, I pinpoint is enhanced engagement and motivation. And I'm not just talking about these things. I've seen them literally in the classroom. Students feel valued and connected, and they're, boosting the engagement when they're able to engage, when they're able to talk to whether it's, students, teachers, or even engage on it with a computer. They are motivated a little bit more. They sit up on their seat a little bit more, and they want to talk. They want to share. Okay. It promotes deeper understanding. Interaction really leads to better retention and deeper understanding. When we talk to one another, we are sharing and we're listening, and we're really able to have that deeper understanding and retention. And I know for me, I am this learner. Oftentimes when I was young in school, we were told to literally sit down and shut up and answer multiple choice questions. And if you didn't know the answer to those multiple choice questions, that made you not understand. You're not smart enough. But for me, I struggled answering multiple choice questions. But when I'd go home and my mom said, "Hey, what'd you learn today?" and she let me talk, I literally could share every single thing that I learned. And so I think for teachers, we need to find really, a space for every learner. And this interaction that Snorkl gives us, it really gets those and captures those students that might have trouble with answering multiple choice questions, because now they can explain. They can literally still do those multiple choice questions, but now they can explain. Okay. And they feel that empowerment. And the last one is that development of critical thinking. Interaction fosters leadership, teamwork, and critical thinking skills. And so when students, I always say, talk to your buddy, talk to your shoulder partner a little bit, because you start to feel that teamwork. Even before doing a snorkel a lesson on snorkel, I might have the students turn and talk to their buddy and go, hey, explain it to your buddy before you explain it to snorkel. Explain it to each other, because that gives them a time to really talk to each other, but also then it prepares them and sets themselves up for success when they answer the question. So this was me as a learner. And I know that as I get older and I get into, teaching students more and more and more, I find that we need to really, give students options to use their voice. And so when Snorkel came out, I jumped at it. I dove in, even though I cannot swim. I'm not lying to you. I stay away from water, but I jumped in because it's all about that voice. And so, at the end of the day, I really do believe this. Student voice matters. And really at a time, student voice matters more than ever. We talk about, AI, we talk about cheating, we talk about, students not able to think for themselves, those kind of things, which I feel like are untrue. But I really do feel that student voice matters, our voice matters. And so this really is a great tool. The authors of this book found that, in science classrooms, the most powerful examples of learning was characterized by verbal sense making and productive, equitable talk. All right. So I really want to just have that sink into you. And then Edutopia highlights that when students are given opportunities to voice their thoughts and interact meaningfully, it increases their engagement and motivation. Students feel valued and more connected to the learning process, making them more likely to participate actively. When the first time I used this with fourth graders, this group of students is always my guinea pigs, and I always walk in and I go, "Are you guys ready to try something new?" And they're like, "Yes, Miss Fabian." And so, is it another tool on a computer? Is it another computer tool? I said, "Yes." But now you're going to be able to talk to it. You're going to be able to explain things. And these kids were like, what? And, the first question that the teacher asked was, how am I going to have 25 students talk to the computer all at the same time? I was like, yo, hold up. Wait a minute. It's going to work out. I promise you. Students had their headphones on and they were engaged with their computer. And we're talking about 25 students where they weren't getting background noise. They couldn't wait to talk to the computer and really be able to voice what they had just learned. And I'm going to kind of backtrack every time I'm at this school, every Thursday I'm at this school. And so that teacher always comes, she's got a morning prep and she always comes and goes, and she's an older teacher. She's about to retire next year. And she goes, what am I going to learn today, Alyssa? And I said, well, I got Snorkel for you. I got this new tool. I really want to try it out. I said, what'd you teach them, first period? And she goes, I taught them about, ice, water, and gas. I said, oh. I said, you think they can explain it? And they said, well, they should be able to. And so I was like, all right, if you think they can, then we got this. So we literally made a lesson on Snorkel, and they came back from their specials, and we threw it at them. And I'll tell you what, these kids were able to draw. They were able to voice. They were excited about showcasing what they learned. And that was all on the same day. And then the teacher's like, well, Alyssa, how am I going to listen to every single one? I said, well, hold up. AI gives them feedback. And then you can go in there and you can tweak, and you can go in there and still have that teacher in the loop. But AI will give them feedback. And that it doesn't stop there. AI can give them feedback, and those students can actually go in and adjust. Maybe they want to start over based off of their feedback given. Or maybe they need to go in there and tweak some things. They didn't have that, if you don't explain it right this first time, then you're done. So they really enjoyed that. All right. So this is the class that I first started out with. And so they had to explain how water can be in 3 different states of matter. Now, I didn't want to showcase the whole class because it does have their student information on it. So I took a little screenshots. But y'all, this is literally fourth graders where they were able to draw that they were taught in the morning, and then they were able to draw, they were able to explain what they had just learned in the process of each stage and label it on the states of matter. So they were like ice, water, vapor, gas, and they couldn't wait to draw. And with Snorkel, they have all these features built right in. But then, they could also go in and get maybe an image from the internet if they would like to explain it a little bit better. But y'all can see that really, they were able to draw just freehand. But then if, these students were able to use their shapes and be able to type. So I really like that students can be creative the way that they want to express how they learned. But I also just love how you can literally just push play and it will record what's written, what's drawn on there, and their voice all at the same time. So this was a big yeehaw moment, and I can't wait to really use this tool time and time after again and with science. So, all right, let's dive in as y'all are all here. And as a tech coach, I'm asked this question all the time. But Alyssa, I don't have anything for math and science. You just don't have anything for math and science. Is there anything out there? And I was like, yep, now there is. So with Snorkel, really, it's not for any specific content area. It's really for everything. And so with this, you can actually go into the library, and I bragged on them at the beginning is they had the science and math library. That was the first ones that they did. And so, right here, and it's even first, I love it, math and science, and you're able to go in and click on whatever you would like and get some ideas as well. Okay. It's very structured, very easy where, teachers can go in and get started. And, a lot of teachers say, what advice do you have for someone just starting off with a tool? And my biggest advice is to start off with something that you feel comfortable with, and it doesn't have to be content related, okay? It could literally be about the Olympics, right? They could draw the symbols of the Olympics. They could, and they could talk about the importance of the Olympics and what it represents, right? And so it doesn't have to be about your content. Another advice that I would give you is to really look through, every ed tech tool right now really has starters. And so go into this library. If you're a science teacher, math teacher, ELA teacher, etc., go in and find something that you think might fit. But also you can always tweak it. So once you find something, you can try out as a student. And this to me is game changer because teachers need to know what it takes, what it looks like as a student. Okay, so I love that feature. They can assign it, they can add it to their library, and they can assign it. So make sure that you go in, and this is really cool because you can go in and you can have students, if you want to, see peers work and all that fun stuff. So that's a really cool way to get started. All right, so let's add an assignment. So this is me just adding an assignment for the life cycle of a frog. And so you're able to autofill, and I'm going to kind of slow that down. So with Snorkel, I'm going to hide these hide controls. With Snorkel, you can add as a teacher, this toolbar, you can add photos. And I think with science, adding photos, adding charts, adding all kinds of stuff that you feel like, science might be more visual, you can add photos. You can copy and paste them right in there. You can take them from the internet and upload them. All right. You can even draw your own photos on there that you would like. Okay. And so I think that's really important to highlight. You can then add your own text. Let's say that you want them to explain these different things. And then that way they can go in and just have it right there. Okay. I like to add the instructions right there on the page because they can go up here on the instructions, but we know students may not go up there. So I always like to add the instructions right there. And so right here, I'm able to add that and right here, set up my AI feedback. I'm not a great prompter. I know how to really tweak, and I know how to really check to make sure it fits what I'm trying to teach. But really, I might struggle creating some of these things from scratch. And what I did is I came up with an assignment. I put the image in there and I put the instructions. So watch what Snorkel will do for you. It will autofill with AI. And I really encourage you to keep the teacher in the loop, right? Make sure that you are reading this and that you are going over it, because right here is the expected answer. And that's what AI will give them based off of what's right there in the expected answer. So really look through that. Is it correct? Keep the teacher in the loop. And you can use it, you can edit it, you can change, does AI give the feedback automatically, or do you keep that teacher in the loop and you have it? And so those are just a few things that are really, are
The first
important.
thing that you do is you have students.
All right, we're going to see this in action.
And voice.
All right. So I'm going to first record screen and voice. And so with Snorkel, you can record the screen, what is drawn and what is said. And I think as a teacher, I'm able to go back and I can see, if mistakes happened, when did they happen? Because with science, we might be able to really explain something, but also our drawing, students can go in and explain different life cycles, different chemical things and elements and all that stuff. And so really, the teacher can legit look back and see, if it when did they make this mistake, all those things. So I'm going to kind of just let this roll.
The first thing that
Hopefully you guys can hear it.
is you have students click record screen and voice. This will enable the drawing to be recorded, also the voice. So let's give it a try. All right, look at the image of the frog life cycle provided. Using the image as a reference, explain each stage of the frog's life cycle in your own words. Then label each stage. So I'm going to have at it. The egg. Frogs lay eggs in clusters in the water. These eggs are covered in jelly-like substances and protects them. So I'm going to label.
So I'm able to literally test this out as a student. I'm able to press that, record it,
All right, embryo.
explain,
Inside
and also
the eggs,
label.
the embryos grow and develop.
Okay.
They start to take
And I
shape
think that's
and
just a
look
game
more
changer.
like
And if you look at that bar up top,
tentacles.
you can go in, you can add
These
text, you can add
are
shapes. There's even a calculator, scientific calculator there. So also students can add images as well.
Right, so
Okay.
I got my
And
egg,
so I'll just kind of like
Right.
skip through this a little bit. So this is once I've uploaded my response,
It can even go in and
then I can actually go in
look at the image of the
and I
frog
can
life cycle. All right.
hear it, I can see it, but also this is going to be what the feedback
This
that
is
they're
where
giving.
they will
Okay.
gain their feedback.
And so
y'all, this is in real time. Okay, and so I think it's just really important to be able to see.
Right.
Look at the image of the frog life cycle provided. Using the image as a reference, explain each. I'm gonna go. This is really
so
quick.
a student
Okay.
and a teacher, this is also what you're seeing as a teacher. I can go in and I can
So you
see
can see the student, writing on the page as well, and see when they write on the page. And so these little marks right here is just really cool, because this is the feedback that I was given. Okay, so great job in explaining and labeling. Let's see what I got. Okay, 4 out of 4. I do know the life cycle of a frog.
So that's a really cool feature, is a student can go in and see the different feedback at these different stages. Also, the teacher can see that. Okay. The teacher can see the feedback. The student can see the feedback. I better get a 4 out of 4 because, I got too many frogs, living on the farm. Another feature that I'm going to highlight and just kind of skip through this is, as a teacher, I really believe in keeping the teacher in the loop. And so I can go down here and I can add comments to my students, and then I can even go right and bottom over here. I can add comments. I can also go in and I can add
actually video
some recordings, and I can make it public. I can make it private, and then I can just click send.
That's a really cool feature.
And
Not
so
only can they get
that
live
is
feedback, but they can also get feedback from the teacher. And so that's a really nice. Yeah, so that's probably one of my favorite features on the teacher side, is really being able to also give them feedback. Not only are they getting AI feedback from Snorkel, but they can also get verbal feedback from me, verbal and written. So I really like that because for me as a teacher, I might not be great at writing out, really what I want to say. So, it's like the students can voice and explain, but also as a teacher, I can explain what they need to be corrected, maybe give them, something that they need to work on, something they did great. I'm also going to highlight the feedback that Snorkel usually gives, and it's really something where they're not giving them answers. They're really coming back and they're asking questions. And so students can go back and they can redo their assignment again. And I like that because students may not get something on the first try, and that's okay. But they can go in and they can see this feedback. Maybe they messed up on, labeling the food, the life cycle of the frogs. And so maybe they missed something. They can go back, they can re-explain it, and then get feedback again. And so I really like that, where really as a teacher, I can really start to really rely on that to say, hey, what did the AI feedback? I always tell students, talk to me. I always tell them, hey, what did the AI feedback give you? And so they can talk to me and say, hey, it told me to go back and, maybe, ask these questions and go back and do all that stuff. So really, really like that. Now, there is no Farmer Fob's, presentation without an app smash. I love app smashing. It is something that's, I don't know, just, it's like instilled with me. So
I'm going to explain the life cycle of a frog. Now, the first step is the egg. The frogs will lay the eggs in the clusters of water, and these eggs are covered in jelly-like substances that protects them. Step number 2 is the embryo. Inside the eggs, the embryos grow and develop. They start to take shape and look more like tiny little tadpoles. Step number 3 is the tadpoles. Their tails, adult frog. Cycle again. Now, the first step is,
so what I think is was with AI, I always say that, with AI, it can enhance creativity and collaboration. And so I literally would have students create something and answer questions using, Snorkel, whether it's in science, history, ELA. But also I like to do something, just what's next, create something, because when we create something, we retain it a little bit more. And so this was just a fun way that I would app smash with my friends at Adobe Express, which is free for K through 12 teachers and students, because my students just talked about the life cycle of frogs. So what better way is to go into Snorkel and talk about the life cycle of frogs, get AI feedback, and make sure that you really know about the life cycle of frogs. If you didn't get a 4 out of 4, go back and really refine your answers, get that feedback again. And once you have really solidified the life cycle of a frog, and you have that confidence that, hey, I know what steps are first through last, let me go into Adobe Express and find an animal like the frog and showcase my understanding of the life cycle of a frog. So that is really how my lessons would be with students, because I really am a believer in using AI to enhance creativity and collaboration. So this would have been one way that I would have app smashed, because I find a way for everything to app smash. So I love Snorkel. I'm a big fan, because as you guys probably know, I love to talk and I love to chat, but I was definitely that student who really struggled test taking. But when a teacher asked me about what I learned and considered that my voice was important, I thrived. And when teachers asked me to create something and be creative, I thrived. And so with a tool like Snorkel, I think I would have really been a different student, growing up. So I really applaud Snorkel for being different and to really always keeping the teacher and the student in mind. So another way that I would I would have thrown in, I would have had the students go from Snorkel to Adobe Express, and then to maybe even like a Magic School or School AI,
to create a song about the life cycle of frogs. So if you haven't checked out Suno, this is just a really fun way to keep students engaged. So always find ways to app smash. If you haven't checked out Adobe Express or Suno, it's just a great way to go from that learning, engaging, collaborative spaces and being creative. So that is my spiel. Make sure getting on up out of this water. I love Snorkl. Make sure to follow me on the socials at Farmer Fobs. You'll see videos and tweets, not only, supporting Snorkl, but also a lot of these other ed tech tools that are just doing amazing things for our teachers and students. So can't wait to continue to share. So my man, John, okay, I was like, come on, pop back up,
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. There was definitely, a lot of yeehaw moments in there. And I was hoping John would have a cowboy hat on there, but, we might get there by ISTE next year.
We should get a cowboy hats to go with the snorkels.
I'm here for it. I love it. I
really appreciate you sharing, Farmer Fobs. I just think that you do an awesome job of talking through how it impacts your students and the different ways that you think you want your students to talk and explain, and super powerful. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
I am super excited here. We are about to move into talking about using Snorkl for supporting world languages. And we are at the 2:00 already Eastern time. And then after that, we're going to be talking about Snorkl in social studies, and then our innovation slam, and capping the day off with bringing Snorkl to your school or your district. And so grateful to have you all here. If you're just joining us, you're joining us at a perfect time. We're about to invite Blaisha to share about leveraging Snorkl and world languages. So Blaisha, super excited to have you here and super grateful for you being part of World Snorkl Day.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And I'll give you a moment there. You can set up your screen share, and then we'll jump right in. All right.
All right. Everything's good? Working all right?
Working great.
All right, thanks. All right, everyone, thanks for having me. So I have a bit.ly link I'm going to put in the chat for you. And if you'd like the presentation, you can have a copy of it. If you want to interact with the links, that's why I'm going to include that link there for you. John, if you don't mind posting that for me, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I'm currently a technology integration specialist for Northern Lee High School District. And previously, I was a middle and high school English teacher for over a decade. So I have a lot of classroom experience. And currently in my role, my job is to teach teachers how to use technology. And Snorkl is one of my favorite tools in terms of AI. And personally, I love to learn new cultures, languages, and I love to travel. I'm also an AI enthusiast and advocate, and particularly for teacher-driven ed tech. And Snorkl is definitely one of my favorite products that I always tell every teacher about. And currently, I am a foreign language club advisor. And so while I don't formally teach languages, every week I meet with students, and the kids actually get to choose which languages we explore. And I've been running the club for many years. We've learned Japanese, French, Italian, Spanish, whatever they want to learn is what we choose. So it's very fun. It's very engaging, and all the students that are there just want to be there. So I'm always looking for different tools I can use with my club in order to kind of have them explore. Another thing is I participated in summer school this year, and my role for summer school was to teach foreign language and have students cook within whatever culture we're learning. So we did Italian and Japanese this summer. So it was nice to be able to experiment in a low stakes environment. And so we got to try Snorkl, and it was a lot of fun. So in the chat, what I would love for you is to just kind of tell me what are some languages you teach if you're a foreign language teacher, or what are some languages you encounter in your school. So just feel free to write in the chat. So while I'm waiting, I'm just going to let you guys know that I've tried Snorkel for Japanese, Italian, and Spanish, and it has worked really, really well. Really, really well. So I'm going to move on. So when it comes to world languages, the one thing I wanted to reiterate, Farsi, that's really fun, is that the Snorkel library is fantastic. However, currently there is nothing in the library. So using Snorkel was challenging for me because I was like, I don't have an example. Like every time I have a tool, I want to first try a template and kind of like experiment. But it was really nice to, I had some emailed over to me to kind of get me started because I didn't have any examples. So I'm hoping today, by you having access to the presentation, that you'll be able to experiment with the templates that I have found and created as well. Ooh, Francais, very nice. So before we get started, I just want to talk about some like best practices, like how do we best learn a new language? And the most important thing is that it needs to be contextual. So language is learned in a practical real world setting. Many of us have like tried Duolingo and things like that. And some of the reasons why that doesn't work is because students are using nonsensical sentences. They're constructing sentences like the penguin walked across the street. And chances are that will never be used. So for me, I love Snorkel because I'm able to give my students a real world application that they can use and contextualize what we're learning. It's also engagement. We need to make it immersive and fun. And kids at first, when they do Snorkel, and I know some of you are new to Snorkel, they're going to be terrified. And particularly with foreign language, like they're kind of terrified to speak. But when it comes to a different language, it adds another layer of stress because a lot of students are insecure about how they sound, how they pronounce things. They don't want to make mistakes. But once they get past it, they really do enjoy the Snorkel experience. Another thing about languages is we want cultural insights. We want to expose students to nuances. So what I love about Snorkel is some of the activities I'm going to show you, it's not just learning the language, but kind of learning about different artists and different things that are happening in the culture. And particularly with AI and Snorkel in particular, the best way to have students learn is obviously to practice. And when it comes to that, enabling students to practice repeatedly with instant feedback will lead to better retention and mastery. We don't want it that they just memorize it for the test. We want it that they scaffold and they grow. So what I love about Snorkel is that there's repetitive practice. If you've used it before, you know you have the ability to re-record. So if students don't get it right in the first try, they're able to re-record, resubmit, and I think the ability to practice over and over again helps with accuracy and fluency. In addition, Snorkel and other AI, that it provides continuous feedback, so they're getting polite corrections and suggestions as they're interacting in real time. And then again, if they get the feedback, they want to try again. A lot of my students did that. They didn't like their score the first time and they realized that they're not a failure, but instead they're learning. So they progress, and I love that feature. So what I have here is an example of a level 1 assignment. So if you do have the slide deck, if you click on this picture, it will be the Japanese numbers 1 through 10. This is an activity I did with my summer school. And the reason I'm going to show you different levels today, different assignments based on where a student is. Are they a newcomer? Are they just learning the language? Are they just doing it for fun like a club? Is it maybe like a level 1 class? And I just kind of wanted to show you different approaches depending on whether it's you as a world language teacher, or if you're a tech coach and you want to show this to your world language teachers, different levels to differentiate. So in this example, my students learned about numbers and animals. So they learned how to count 1 through 10, they're Japanese, and they also learned some animals. So I thought it would be a really great idea to kind of have them mash the two together. And again, they're very beginnings. Now, if you do want to try the activity, there's no pressure to, or if you want to do it later, that's absolutely your call. You can click here to join the class, and then the activity as a student would be here. And if you're interested in this activity for yourself, like just to make a copy, you can click on Japanese numbers 1 through 10, click on this picture, and it will take you there. So I'm going to click on this just so you can kind of see what's happening. So in this activity, I have students counting 1 through 10. And because it's a level 1, I put the directions just like Farmer Fobs did in the assignment. You know, we can put directions. I put nothing up here, to be honest, because I know students don't generally read directions, but I made sure the task is very clear. And even though they should know 1 through 10, I put the directions in our conventional language, which is English. So I gave the task very clearly, count, and I'll just read it to you so you can see it. So we count 1 through 10 in Japanese. The next task they had to do is draw or copy and paste a specific amount of animals to say how many animals there are. So when we use Snorkel, there is that interactive whiteboard, and it's very easy for students to just copy and paste or draw with all the tools that are in the whiteboard. And the kids make better connections if they're not just speaking. Speaking is great, but I think we also need to incorporate visualizations. So having the kids incorporate that seems to work really well. So in this task, they had to count 1 to 10. They had to copy and paste their animals, and then they had to write and say the number of animals in Japanese next to the drawing. So I'm going to show you an example. And hopefully the audio works. I'll play an example of a student's.
Ichi, ni, san, shi, yo, roku, nana, hachi, ku, ju. Roku, fukaru.
Perfect. So she did a really good job on this one. And notice she put the cute pictures of the owls, and then she chose the number 6. So again, it was just, I was layering an introductory skill, which is 1 through 10, simple numbers and animals, and just gave a little bit of student choice at the end. So she did a great job on this. And then she got some feedback. Now, one of her constructive criticisms was that, 6 wasn't clear. And it says it not only in English, but also in Japanese, which is pretty cool. So again, if you want to try that activity yourself, you're welcome to do that at any time. So I call this a level 1 assignment, and that's because, again, the task is clear. I'm also giving examples of what to say. So like on the bottom, I gave an example, san, biki, no neko, as an example. So it's very clear what they are doing. So I'm going to give you some tips along the way. I know many of us here know how to use Snorkel, but when you're doing your settings and setting up the AI feedback, what's really important is that you might, if you're doing foreign language, consider changing the language, because it defaults to English, obviously. But in my example, I changed it to Japanese. And the reason I did that is because that's what we were learning. Another thing to consider is the grade level. So while the students I had in my school, in my summer school, were middle school, 13, 14-year-olds, they're brand new to Japanese. So for this assignment, I dropped the grade level to elementary. So it's just a consideration. You don't have to do it. I just find that the feedback is a little bit stronger when we adjust those settings. That's just my experience. Okay, so here is an example of what I'm going to call a 1.5. So this is if you or a teacher teaches like Spanish 1, and maybe it's towards the end of the year or the semester. So in this example, I'm just going to open this up. And again, with my slideshow, you can click on the pictures and get the examples and add them to your library. So in this example, just want to make sure I'm sharing. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me just see. I'll go back here. Okay, there's just a little bit of lag. Okay, so in this example, the student is going to their favorite restaurant. So I'll just read you the prompt. It says, you arrived at your favorite restaurant and it's time to put it in order. Select 2 of the menu items and place an order in Spanish. Be sure to be polite and courteous to the waitstaff. So we have on the right a menu of things like gazpacho, paella, all these things that they can eat. So I'm calling this a level 1.5 because the directions, the task is in English. And then we have that visual cue of the gazpacho, and we have the menu on the right. but you don't necessarily give them the script like the last one where you're telling them exactly what to say. So in this case, they still have to think about it. The students have some choice as to what they're going to order at this restaurant. We do have this real world context again. So, you know, if they're at a restaurant, like what would they be ordering? And this was a really fun assignment for sure. Now, something I wanted to kind of bring your attention to is the expected answer. So if you are a foreign language teacher, or if you're telling this to them, you always want to start your answer, the prompt, as saying students must answer in blank language. So in this one, it's in Spanish, and then provide the example. Now, the autofill with AI will do a good job at doing that for you as well. I've had a lot of success with that, for sure. So again, I'm calling this a 1.5 because we do have it in English. And we have the visuals, but students still have some choice. The example answer has a greeting, and then the thank you at the end, and then the order in the middle. So again, this would not be good for like the first day of Spanish, but definitely towards the end of that course. Okay, so what about a level 2? So we're going to kick it up a notch again. And that's what I love about Snorkl, is that you can truly differentiate based on the student's ability and based on what you're teaching. So this one is for Spanish. This is past continuous tense. And again, if you have the slide deck and you click on the picture, you can have an example of the assignment. The expectation of the student is that they should respond in Spanish and use the past continuous tense at least twice in their story, and that they should get feedback about the expectations of the prompt, as well as proper grammar, syntax, and verb tenses. So again, this is the task, and I'll just read it to you in case you're having trouble seeing it. It's share a short story in Spanish about your unexpected encounter, imagined or otherwise, with a famous person or a character from a book. Use the past continuous tense to describe what was happening when the encounter took place. And the reason I call this level 2 is because now we have expectations of grammar. It's no longer just about like skill and drill vocabulary, but we're moving on to specific tenses. And here's a level 3, and this one's available in the Snorkl library already. It's in the Try as a Student. So this one I love because if you look here, the directions are actually in Spanish. So again, if you're teaching a more advanced class, or a student actually speaks that language, they have the directions in that language. And what I love about this one is that the task, for those that don't know Spanish, is to compare the painting styles of 2 artists. So not only is it culturally relevant, I'll pull it up just so you can see it. Not only is it culturally relevant to kind of look at the artists themselves, and I'm just going to wait for it to I know there's a little bit of a lag, but not only is it culturally relevant, we also have this artwork. We have the task in Spanish. So again, very advanced. Love this task. And again, it's there for you. And I love how easy it is to make a task. All you have to do is, click on the text box, copy and paste some pictures, and voila, there you go. So going back to the level 3, because, some of our teachers do have advanced sections. So what you can do to kind of kick up the rigor, if your class is more advanced, you want to keep the directions in the language they're learning and not their native language, just like this example. So that would be like one of my first tips to share. And another tip, again, based on my experience with teaching, is to try to incorporate visuals as much as possible. Like, even though they are advanced, it's still important that they have that visual there. In addition, have them use the whiteboard to prepare their response before speaking, because even though you do have these high expectations, it might be really challenging. And I'll show you what I mean. So if you go on the interactive whiteboard, before kids click record the screen and voice, they can click on the text tool. And I tell my students of all levels to do this, but especially the advanced, and then just start practicing their response. So that way they can kind of plan it out, have them write it out first before they jump in. Because again, a lot of kids are daunted by recording in general, but especially when it's in a different language, it's certainly challenging. So another thing I'd like to point out is this is a relatively new feature, is the student feedback settings. So whether you teach foreign language or not, I do think it's important that you know that there are these different settings that you can change on the individual student level. So if you have an EL student, for example, and their native language is Spanish, you can have it that they manually change their individual student account to be their native language. And that way they can have custom feedback, making it more accessible to a broader range of learners. The EL students can receive feedback in their native language, and that's great. But something to also consider is your advanced language learners. They would also benefit from the feedback being taught in the language they're learning, because that's more immersive. So just a consideration, and something I think is worth noting no matter what you teach, is to have the students, make adjustments to their own settings. When it comes to assignments, just to kind of give you a quick recap, there are 3 different levels that I like to say when it comes to assignments and how they're differentiated. So if you're, teaching for the first time, you're teaching students within the first year or the club, and it's very casual. When you're doing a foreign language assignment, my suggestion is that you give them basic vocabulary exercises with their audio recordings. So I suggest skill and drill standalone. So again, like, uno, due, tre, 1, 2, 3, and being very targeted and specific, and have the expectation that their recording is no more than 30 seconds. And again, like in the previous examples I showed you, to kind of, provide on the whiteboard the directions very clear and give them examples when they're first learning. If you have students that are more advanced or as they progress, a level 2 assignment would be like sentence creation and conversation practice. So one of my favorite things to do on Snorkl is to, on one student account, have students practice conversations and kind of go back and forth. So definitely having students not just talk to, Snorkl by itself and make a recording, but literally have 2 kids pair up together and have a partner-oriented conversation. And again, if they want to plan out a script to kind of, test it out, they're absolutely welcome to do that. In a level 2, you also want to have specific grammar expectations. But you also want to leave flexible, open-ended responses, just like the restaurant. Give them a choice of what they're ordering. It doesn't have to be like a level 1 where they're just giving you the 10 things that you specifically taught. Just making it more open-ended is great. And having students plan out the responses, huge for all levels. And lastly, if you have an advanced level student, you want to make sure that what you're teaching is culturally significant and have a real world application. So like in that example I showed earlier, there was the artist, right? A Spanish artist. I think it's important that we put real world context, real world situations, ordering at a restaurant, real things that are happening. Again, that penguin's never going to walk across the street, right? Like that's not something you would ever have to say or ever have to talk about. So if you do have more advanced students, putting the directions in the world language, considering the feedback language. And one of my favorite things is to layer previous applications. So again, it doesn't have to be like level 1 where it's just that specific skill. You want to, cycle back to previous skills and kind of put it together. So layering previous applications makes sense. Another thing to consider with those settings is even if the student is, let's say, in middle school and they're more advanced, we can make the grade level go higher for increased rigor for that specific assignment. And another thing on Snorkl that I know other people here today was talking about is that the students have the ability to leave each other feedback if you enable that. So if you have advanced students, have them leave feedback in that native language, in that world language that they're learning. So I'm just going to give you guys a minute. I just want to know if you have any questions or if you have any ideas or prompts you'd like to use. And if you'd like to, feel free to share them now. I'll just give you a minute to do that.
While people are taking a second to type in the chat here, Blaisha, I just wanted to say I love what you talked about, the differentiation and different ways that you could really use Snorkel for something really basic as like students counting or simple vocabulary words to something that's far more in depth and using different tenses or things like that. I'm curious in what you were able to do with your students this summer. You had brand new language learners this summer, first time language learners. Where sort of what were the places you were using it the most? Was it around some of the basic recall, or was it more of trying to construct sentences, or what did you experience there?
So yeah, it's great. So I think I did recall at first, just to kind of get them comfortable. And then what I tried to do, even in that example, that level 1, I tried to smash together 2 skills. So it wasn't just numbers. So like when the first time they would do
Right.
like count 1 to 10. And then after that, I was like, okay, count 1 to 10 with the number of pets you have.
Yeah.
And so that's so in a way they did kind of approach almost a level 2 because they're kind of like combining the 2 together.
Cool. Yeah. I know. I'm thinking back to my own high school days. We would go to the language lab. We had a language lab where we would basically record ourselves and then we would listen to ourselves back. And, as a new language learner, I don't know that I was necessarily best positioned to understand when I had done well or when I hadn't done well. So getting the chance to get some feedback from an outside party is super powerful.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, when it comes to learning a language, the kids never hear how they sound. So I feel like with Snorkel, they got to hit play and we would project. I would say, is anyone comfortable with me sharing? And I would play their recordings and they'd be like, oh, wow. Like, what did they do well? Like, what are some feedback you would give them? So I think it was really, really awesome.
That is great. That's awesome.
I don't see any comments yet, and that's okay. So I just want to say thank you. If anyone wants to reach out to me, you can email me at bdunham@nlsd.org. I also have social media, not like former fobs, but I do go on the socials. So my Twitter is Mrs. Dunham NL, and my Instagram is Lemanja. And I always love to connect and share teaching and learning ideas. And if you'd like the presentation, the link again is on the bottom.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Felicia. I really, really appreciate it. I know people are putting in the chat here, like a lot of these ideas are applicable for world languages, but they're also applicable for English teachers or folks who are trying to support students in, building vocabulary or building their fluency to explain just across subject areas. And so super valuable for even non-language teachers.
Thank you.
I am going to share my screen here, and we have a few minutes before we're supposed to start the social studies presentation. And so I actually going to take an opportunity here to just show you a quick demo video. If you've met with us before, if you've seen the Snorkel demo, you've perhaps come across this before. But if you haven't, if Snorkel is new to you today, I want to take an opportunity here just to share it with you. After that demo video, it's about 3 minutes long. Then we're going to get a chance to jump into social studies with Christy, and I'm super excited for that. And then our innovation slam comes right after that. So I'm going to pull up the demo video and give you a chance to enjoy this. If I share the right tab here. Welcome to Snorkel, the multimodal tool for immediate feedback on student thinking. Here's how it works. Our homepage is at snorkel.app, where teachers can sign in and create an account. From the teacher homepage, you can create classes and share activities with your students. We have a library filled with hundreds of rich pre-created activities, or teachers can quickly and easily create their own activities using their own questions or curriculum materials. When teachers share an assignment with their students are given a digital whiteboard on which to share and record their response. Students can show their work visually as well as explain it verbally, and Snorkel will capture the richness of their thinking and explanation. Students can record in any language, making Snorkel a really rich tool for giving all students access. After students submit their work, our AI analyzes their explanation and provides students with personalized time-stamped feedback on their response. And the feedback on the right-hand side, you'll see that the AI has marked the student work as correct or incorrect, given a score on a 0 through 4 rubric, and provide students with personalized feedback unique to their strategy. We try to praise what's going right in student thinking and offer them prompting and questioning to improve their thinking, just like a great teacher would if they were able to sit down one-on-one with every student. Students can use this feedback immediately to re-record and improve their thinking and improve their response. On the teacher side, Snorkl gives teachers rich instructional insights from across the class. As students submit their responses, AI automatically categorizes the student work and attaches a label for how strong the student's explanation was. Teachers can quickly review a response by taking their cursor and scrolling over the video, or jumping in to see the actual feedback that the students got. In addition to viewing individual student work, Snorkl leverages AI to analyze the class as a whole. In the Insights tab, Snorkl gives teachers summaries of performance from across the class, including examples of top exemplars and trending errors and mistakes. We share with teachers direct qualitative descriptions of what's happening in student thinking, providing them with support and with figuring out instructional next steps. Snorkl can be leveraged with any grade level and any content area where you want students to get immediate personalized feedback. For example, we might ask students to analyze a short reading passage and answer questions about the text. Snorkl transforms learning by providing students with the kind of personalized, immediate feedback that's otherwise impossible to scale across the class. Dive in at snorkl.app. I think I was talking to myself. I think I was muted. So speaking of using Snorkl in any subject area, I'm really excited to welcome Christy Cloud here to share with us some ways to leverage Snorkl, especially in social studies. So Christy, I'm gonna invite you here to the stage, and great to have you.
Hi, thank you so much.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Great. Happy World Snorkl Day.
In my snorkel shirt.
So I haven't told this story yet so far, but World Snorkl Day, if you Google it, like it's a real thing. We didn't make this up. Granted, it's actually spelled the real way with snorkel. There's an international day on the calendar for World Snorkl Day, but we thought we should capitalize on it and make our own World Snorkl Day. So really grateful to have you be part of it, Christy.
Oh, so excited to be here.
Awesome. I will stop sharing my screen and I'll let you take over, and excited to learn from you and see the different ways that you've been thinking about leveraging Snorkl for social studies.
All right. Now, I hope I'm going to get my audio right. So let's see. I can do this right in StreamYard. I think I'm good. All right. Ooh. Okay. So let me go ahead and get started. So I am also known in the Eduguardian circle as historical. So I love the little title, Historical Harbors, Snorkl for Social Studies with Historical. And just to get us in the mood for the presentation, we got a little bit of what's going on. If you want to grab the link, feel free.
With Historical and Snorkl, they've got a winning game. When it's time for social studies, no need to feel the dread. They provide feedback instantly and help you move ahead. Eduprotocols and Historical, Snorkl too. They make learning fun and easy, always there for you. With their instant feedback, you'll never miss a beat. Social studies make simple, they can't be beat.
All right. So my name is Christy Cloud, and this will actually be my 24th year in education. 21 of those have been in social studies. I'm moving in next year to a very exciting position as an instructional technology facilitator. I'm super excited about that, but I do have, I think, quite a bit of experience with social studies, and I hope if you are on X that you'll give me a follow so that we can share and learn together. Here's my Twitter handle. And today, what I want to talk about with Snorkl is how you can use the library to fund activities, how you can upcycle library items that can really target your particular learning goals, how you can create your own snorkel activities, and some of the best practices for prompting those activities. And I feel like as a Southerner that I should have probably gotten a little bit of extra time because y'all know we talk slow. So I'm just going to try to hit as much of this as I can. And the first thing I want to talk about is the Snorkel library. So if you look in Snorkel and you've got the library up here, you can see social studies and history is coming soon. But the really good thing about this is that we're all reading teachers, right? Everybody teaches reading. Everybody encourages good literacy skills. And there are lots of things in the Reading and Language Arts library that can really help you meet some of your social studies goals. So one of the first things that I would suggest is using the reading library to explore some of your own standards. So we're just going to click 5th grade here. And you do have a search up here, so you can search through the library. Super helpful. And if you look at this one, the very first one under Reading Informational Text, you are going to get this really great activity. And let's go ahead and hit Try a Student. And it's going to show you exactly what you can do with this. And it's about breakfasts around the world. Now, one of the things that I really like about this is that you can edit these activities to make them more prone to exactly what you are teaching in social studies. So if we come over here, instead of just trying it as a student, but you always want to start there and see if the activity is really going to work with what you're doing. But if you want to edit your activity, we're going to add it to the library. And now it's in your library. So when you're up here, instead of the Snorkel library, you're going to come to My Library. And we just added this one. So you've got a copy of everything here. And you've got just the instructions, read the passage, answer the questions carefully, etc. But we can go in here and edit right on our whiteboard. So maybe you want to add an additional part, like right here, part C. And you could add in, underline the names of all countries. And that a little bit bigger. And you can take the time to move these things around now, but just in the presence of time, since I talk a little slower in my Southern accent anyway, we're just going to leave it right there. And so now we're just going to hit Done Editing. We'll come back here, and you've got all of this already done since this was taken from the Snorkel library. So what you want to do now is just add in what you did for Part C. So Part C, student should underline all names of countries. And then you're done with that. And you can assign it. And once you have that, you've got some choices. Do you want to let other students see it? Do you want to allow students to see your comments? Which can be great. So once you go to the activity, then you can try it yourself, which I suggest that you always do. So you can get any sort of little kinks out before you actually give it to your students. And then once you're in here as a student, you can just record your screen and voice. And based on this excerpt, what would the author most likely write about? So here, you're still reinforcing those great language arts skills. And let's see, I read this earlier, and I'm trying to remember. Let's see, based on this excerpt, what would the author most likely write about next? All right, he's going to South America next, so we're going with B. And then which best supports your answer. And again, your students are talking through this the entire time. So this tells me that he's going to South America next. And then I've still got Part C down here to underline the names of the countries. So I'm just going to look through here. We've got Japan. We've got Japan again. We've got Canada. Canada again, and then I'm going to go ahead and end it and submit it. It's going to upload our response, and then it's going to generate our feedback for us. So we're going to hang out for a second while it's doing that. It always seems to take longer when I'm live. Okay, there we go. All right, so 3 out of 4 strong. It tells me what I did well. And then your students can even, if they, because I don't know about y'all, I spent a lot of years in middle school. Y'all, they love to argue. So if they don't agree with the feedback, they can even do this. Was it accurate? Was it helpful? Do they want to leave additional comments? Okay, so that can be very helpful for your students. They're like, no, I don't like how they did that. So you've always got that to look back on. So now we have done this and added in our country names. It showed that you paid attention to the details, and it also supported our reading. So let's look at what we want to look at next. So we checked out ELA research. Again, everybody's a reading teacher. We're all there to support, reinforce, and help our students win. Now, let's look at how we can upcycle some of those things. So we checked out the activities. We matched them to what we were currently talking about. And let's get this in full screen. And you can use it as is. And you can also do what we just did and configure it to meet any of your social studies needs. Now, what if you want to create your very own Snorkl masterpiece? You want to start from scratch and really show your students what they can do with your own materials that are absolutely aligned to your teaching goals and your standards. So from the library, you'll click to create an activity. You can add what you've already got to the whiteboard. You can configure the AI and then assign the activity to try it out. So let's look at that. So if we are in Snorkl, we are going to come back over here. I'm still in here as a student, so let's go back to this one. All right. So we are going to go back over to our library. I would also, if you are just working with your students and introducing Snorkl to them, remember that you've got all of these great activities that they can try to sort of get a feel of Snorkl, which may not be necessarily related to your content, but as a practice run, it's really good to give them. Like for instance, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, y'all, I have been eating and making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a very long time. We're not going to talk about age or anything, but it's been a minute, okay? I thought I was a master at making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I did this and I got a 3 out of 4. So I was a little disappointed. Apparently, I need to work on my peanut butter and jelly sandwich skills. But it's a really good one to get started with students so that they can see the possibilities, see what it's going to work like. And it's a low, everybody knows how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So they don't have a fear of getting the wrong answer. And that can really build some confidence when you're trying a new ed tech tool. So this time, in order to create our own, we're going to go to our library. And from my library, you're going to create an activity. And from here, you can just title it. So we're going to do something like Middle East government. I know everybody's super excited, right? And then you've got this add to whiteboard. So from here, you can add in pictures. So what I did was I took a screenshot of one of my PDFs. So look at this. It is multiple choice. Now, Snorkl does so much more than multiple choice, right? You can do all of these great Venn diagrams with your students. You can do all these amazing things. But it really puts multiple choice into a whole new game too, because now not only are they going to circle the correct answer, they're going to explain how they got it, right? So we're going to done editing, and we are just going to take multiple choice instructions. So answer the 5 questions and explain your reasoning. Now, you can turn on your AI feedback to students. You can either do it where you approve it first or auto approve. I'm going to do that. I'm going to select social studies and middle school. Now you can come down here and you can fill in exactly what the questions are you're asking. You can describe the images, the graphs, and all of that, and tell your expected answer. I'm going to tell you though, I am not a prompting expert. I like to have somewhere to start. And Snorkl has this amazing autofill with AI, and I love it. So once you hit autofill with AI, it's going to give you a second. It's going to read what you have put up there. And here's where I need the music. All right, look at this. So it pulled all of my questions, and then boom, it gave me all of my answers right here. So I, of course, want to check those. Yes, that's right. Okay. So AI is doing a great job of doing this for me, and it gives an answer explanation for each of them. So I'm just going to use that. It did great. And then assign it. And you can choose those differently if you like. Go to activity, and then you can try it yourself. So here's the reason I think that you shouldn't just ignore multiple choice with Snorkl, because I think that Snorkl makes multiple choice so much more dynamic. So now, as a student, we're going to hit this, and students can just talk through their questions and answers. Which type of government is one in which citizens have power? Capitalism. Okay, that's actually a economic system, so we're going to get rid of that. Socialism, no. Okay, we've got democratic and autocratic. Okay, so citizens have power in a democratic country. We're going to circle that one. Which type of government is the one in which a single leader has power? Auto means one, autocratic, one leader. And students would go through all of those and submit it. And then we're going to get our feedback again. And it's going to tell me I didn't answer all of them, but it's okay. All right, so we got the ones we answered correct. Hey, that's pretty good. Remember to explain your reasoning. I love how it always gives you sort of like glows and grows. It tells you some things. That's a great strategy to use. Okay, I've got a glow. Here, remember to explain your reasoning. I've got something I need to grow with. So awesome, awesome job. And this, of course, you can always, as a teacher, type in or add in responses with video. So very helpful if you want to add in more info to your students. Now, even though I think that Snorkl can really take multiple choice to the next level, it can do so much more than just multiple choice, right? And there's so much more that you do in a social studies class than just multiple choice. So what else could it do? Like Farmer Fobs, I love an app smash too, right? And one of my very favorite app smashing tools is Canva. Like if you can't do it with Canva, then it probably doesn't need to be done, right? I mean, Canva's amazing. So if we come over to our Canva templates and we just do like social studies worksheets, and you're going to get all of these amazing things. and you can look through, find the ones that are most beneficial to your students, and then you can click on one of these. So let's see, let's pick one out. What should we schedule? Maybe we should do just social studies. We can't find exactly what we're looking for. Let's look here. All right, here's one we could do. So on this one, it's going to give us all of the different continents and then ask us to name as many countries as we can for each of those continents. This would be like a really cool way, I think, to open up a new unit, or especially at the beginning of the year when you're going over basic geography skills. So this time we want to share this and we're going to download it. And you want, instead of downloading it as a PDF, like me, you might do a lot in Canva. If you're going to print it as a worksheet, download it as a PNG. And then you can come right back over to Snorkl. And let's go back to our library. And we're going to create an activity again. And this is going to be our countries of the world. And then we're just going to pull in that picture that we just saved. Voila. So we're done editing that. And then again, instructions for your students. It is on the page, but I think it's important to have instructions in as many places as you possibly can, because especially middle school students, they don't like to read directions. So I try to put it everywhere. Name as many countries for each of the continents as you can. And then a couple of things. If you, I'm big with enable and autofill with AI. I have found that Snorkl does a fantastic job with this. But if you decide that you want to do your own configuration with AI, first of all, more power to you. But Snorkl also has this great learn more down here, and it will bring you to this sample AI setup, which is so helpful to let you know exactly the different kind of things that you need to put in to get the AI to give you what you want. Because AI is only as good as we set it up to be. So your prompting is really the most important thing while you're doing this. This is helpful, but I'm going to be honest, I usually just stick with enable and autofill, because once you have enabled and autofilled, you can also go in and edit that. So if you get something that you don't particularly like, all you got to do is use an edit, and then here you can go in and you can edit any of this that you would like. So if you want to add in more countries or whatever that they might could choose from, you have the ability to do that now. And then you can just assign it. And I always encourage you, once you've assigned it, before you actually give it to students, go to the activity and try it yourself. Create your own response, because that will really show you what, if there are any kinks that you need to go back and work out with your AI prompting. So if it doesn't work well for you, it's not going to work well for your students. So if you do this and it doesn't turn out the way that you had hoped it did, if it says something about Colombia is in Antarctica, then we obviously want to go back and make sure that we've got our prompt set up correctly. So I strongly encourage you to always give that a try before you actually give it to your students. All right, so let's come back over here, and we have now created our Snorkl masterpiece where our students can go in and give us all of the countries and any of the given Consonants, we talked about configuring the AI. You can do it on your own, more power to you. You can allow Snorkl to autofill it. If you do allow Snorkl to autofill, it is still editable. And then again, I would strongly encourage you to always assign the activity and then try it before you give it to your students to try. Best prompting practices. One of my best tips would be don't forget the autofill with AI that Snorkl gives you. That is amazing. I'm not a prompting expert, and I love that it is there for me. If you do decide to go on your own, details are important. I always like to think of when I'm configuring my prompts is if I'm doing it for a substitute teacher. I want them to have all of the information possible that they need. So remember, your details are important. Think about your substitute teacher. What would you need to tell them? I also find it very helpful to use my standards when I'm creating prompts. That way you know that the AI feedback is going to really be centered around your state standards. Remember, you can always edit your work after you try it. If it didn't come out correctly, that doesn't necessarily mean throw it away. Just go back and give it another try. And then if you are setting up the AI on your own, the little slides guide that Snorkl gives you is amazing. So definitely check that out. And very last thing, Edge Guardians love Snorkl. Edge Guardians is the PLF that you have always been waiting for. So if you are ready to dive in with us, I hope that you will take our little code and it'll take you to our one-pager so you can set up your own little snorkeling Edge Guardian. And I hope that there have been some tricks and some tips in this to help you get started on your social studies masterpieces in Snorkl.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Christy. And yeah, if anyone hasn't heard of the Edu Guardians, definitely check them out. And it's just an awesome group of teachers and tech leaders who are just sharing awesome insights and tips to new tools. So thanks so much for what you shared here, Christy, today about using Snorkl, especially in social studies and the different ways to set up those assignments. And yeah, just really, really grateful for you to be being part of our special day.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Of course. And we got to get you one of these masks for next time that we see you.
Yes, I'm going to need one of those, definitely.
Go well with that purple shirt.
Right? Love the purple.
All right. Thanks for being here, Christy. And I'm really excited because we are moving in really quick here to our Innovation Slam. And so this next session, we've got 5 different guests who are all going to be sharing different ways to leverage Snorkl, all in this little half-hour section. And so I'm really excited for them to do that. Before we get there, I just want to give a quick mention again to the Snorkl pilot program that we are rolling out today for schools and districts that are interested in adopting Snorkl for this coming year. If you're wanting to start this in your own classroom, if you're a classroom teacher, awesome. I'd love to have you get into the platform. You can go to snorkl.app and create a free account today. But if you're a district leader or a school leader and you want to support your whole campus or your whole district to get in there, we would love to invite you to be part of our pilot program. We're offering it at a low rate because we want to encourage new users and get them in there and support you in adopting the tool. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd love to talk to you more about it. And we're also going to cover that more in the final session of today and how you can roll this out with your staff and with your team. But with that, let me share my screen here and just tell you about our last session before we get to that. And I can't believe it. We've been making our way here around the globe, and we are all the way over here to Surf's Up, the Innovation Slam, and we have 5 awesome guests here, and I haven't had a chance to check yet. Are we all on the screen? Oh, we're all here. Okay, great. I'm gonna see if we can add us here one by one, and if I do this well, maybe we'll even be in order. There we are. Oh, hey everyone, great to see you.
Great to be here. Hey.
Hi.
So grateful for you to be part of our World Snorkl Day. And we've just been having a chance to talk about snorkel in different subject areas, and then wanted to do this fun session where we could just invite a bunch of awesome folks that we love and admire to share different ways that you have leveraged the tool, or that you are excited about leveraging the tool. And so, yeah, really grateful for you being here.
Thank you.
I think we'll maybe just work our way here from left to right. So if Kim, if you want to go first, and then
Sure.
Andrew, and then Eric, and then Larissa, and then Stephen, we'll work our way through that. And yeah, super, super grateful. We even are starting a couple minutes early, which means that if you go a couple minutes early over, it won't be a big deal.
Okay, cool. Sorry, guys, I'll try not to. Can I present?
Yes, let me stop presenting here, and I'll put yours up on the screen.
Okay. Do I click present?
Yeah, if you click that present
Okay,
button,
I just wanna make
bottom
sure.
center, then I should be able to put it on the screen there. Andrew, love the Hawaiian shirt. Larissa, love the hat.
Had to go all in, man.
Yeah, looking good.
You don't want to see my, I'm at my school right now, and they repainted all the classrooms, so my office is an absolute just travesty. So, I spare you. You can look at the beach instead.
Look, the beach looks beautiful.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Kim, and I am coming to you live from our Notre Dame Academy for Eduprotocols. I believe you guys had a session this morning, and sadly, I couldn't watch it, about Eduprotocols. But in a nutshell, they are lesson frames for learning. And I love that with Snorkl, I can make the students' thinking visible, give immediate specific feedback, and it's easy for repetitions. So I thought I'd give you a rundown of 3 Eduprotocols that I think will be key for Snorkl use. First of all, if you're asking yourself, what is an Eduprotocol? It's basically a lesson frame for learning, taking from what we've done with students before, but with a little bit of a twist so it works out better. So in the past, we may have done something like a KWL chart, but we always have those kids write down things that they think they know that are wrong. And we don't really want to have as soon as the teacher writes it, it's a valid. And so anyway, that's just a small example of what an Eduprotocol is in general. But now I'm going to get to the good stuff. So these are our recipe cards. And one of our most famous Eduprotocols and most UDL friendly is Sketch and Tell, where students draw about the prompt that they are given, and then they talk with a friend, or now with Snorkl, about that, and then they write. And what I'm envisioning for Snorkl is the student can open up the Snorkl portal, sketch their prompt, and tell Snorkl their prompt before they get over here and type it, so that Snorkl can give them some feedback on their prompt, so that they're including everything. I tried this out with the peanut butter and jelly prompt that you guys have for teachers to try out, and got some really good feedback that I was missing in my peanut butter and jelly prompt. So I think that would be a great way that kids would know that they're on the right track. Next rapid fire is our 3x genre challenge. So in the 3x genre challenge, students are using one image or source. They're writing about 3 different genres or writing styles, or 3 different points of view, and they write a paragraph for each one. So my vision for Snorkl would be, you would be setting this up actually as 3 Snorkl activities, because you would want to attach the prompt, or the rubric for each prompt that you provide. But the students would get the chance to find out, am I truly giving a narrative? Am I truly writing enough information for informative? Am I truly getting at the argument and making a claim? So I think Snorkl would be a great way to have students get that immediate feedback. And then lastly, a really fun one that's called Buka Kucha. It's a funny name. It's based off of Pacha Kucha. And students are usually reading this could be with their independent reading book, or it could be with a class book. They are given a question about the skill, and then they provide evidence and an image. So here's what a final one probably looks like. And in this one, the student was reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and the prompt was tell about a dangerous situation for the character and how that character handled it. So my vision for this is where the student could go ahead and explain what they want to write, get that verbal rehearsal before writing, get some feedback from Snorkl, and then go ahead and type up their response. So that's my quick little way to use 3 Eduprotocols in Snorkl. And we have a Facebook group we're so close to 18,000 members. I'm super excited about that, but we have free support for life and we love helping each other out. You can also find me at kvogie71 on Twitter, and I have my email address there for you. I have about a 12-hour turnaround time on email. So thank you so much for letting me give you some hints on Snorkl with Eduprotocols.
Huge thank you to you, Kim. I know my co-founder Jeff was just at a Eduprotocols conference this last week and just had a great time. And just the resources that you all have put together has been really powerful. So super excited to encourage and support folks in other ways they can use those protocols with Snorkl as well.
Thank you for allowing me to share.
Of course. Andrew, can we kick it over to you next?
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
All right.
All right. So first, my name is Andrew Davies. I am a digital learning coach here in Texas. And in all transparency, last year, I did not have time to start using Snorkl with students. And I actually started doing more deep diving kind of in May at the end of the school year. And then all summer, I've just been kind of brain dumping ideas on how I might present it to teachers and use it with class in each classroom. And so I'm just going to kind of present to you just some of my brain dump and some of my ideas on, okay, what might I do, with my elementary students here on my 2 campuses. So let me share real quickly so I can show you this. Hold on. Oops. Let's see here. All right. Okay, everybody see that okay? Sure we're good. Okay. All right, very quick 5-minute Snorkl. Here we go. Okay, so a couple of ideas. First of all, my biggest excitement, my biggest wow factor with Snorkl is the idea of, in an elementary classroom especially, teachers are constantly trying to meet every student's needs, right? By bringing them to a teacher table, working with them one-on-one. But then you have all your students who are working independently or with a partner, and you don't necessarily always get to hear or see that thinking. And so my excitement here is that I'm going to be able to, and my teachers are going to be able to still pull those small groups of students who need that one-on-one attention, but then every other student is still getting really good feedback. And one little aside that I'll share that I've kind of shared with a lot of teachers on my 2 campuses that are reluctant to use these tools and reluctant to use AI, I kind of stop them in their tracks when I say, well, imagine that I come into your classroom, I give your students some feedback on the work, the writing that they're doing, right? My feedback might look different than your feedback, right? It's still decent, good feedback, and it's something that students can use, they can think about critically. So it's like having a second teacher in the room, right? It's someone else that's going to give them feedback. It's like having a student partnered with them that's going to give them feedback as well. The student may not agree with the feedback, and that's okay. They can have those conversations and think critically there. So anyway, so in the ELAR classroom, just some simple, quick ideas. So one thing that I tested out myself was kind of utilizing the old story arc and having students kind of retell a story to Snorkl, and then having Snorkl kind of give feedback on that story. And I was actually really impressed. I used the book Holes in my example, and I specified a chapter, and it was actually able to give me feedback specifically on that chapter, which was kind of shocked me a little bit. I wasn't sure if it was going to actually be able to pull some of the information from those chapters. And so I just thought that might be a pretty fun idea, is having them get to have those conversations about a book that they're reading. And then I actually tried, uploading different graphic organizers to see how the AI would react. And I love that it actually seemed to read and understand what graphic organizer I was placing on the screen. So it was able to kind of walk students through how well they were able to, in this case, talk about the rising action, the climax, and the resolution. The next one, try to go fast here. So as far as math is concerned, now I've always been a math and science guy. I taught 4th and 5th grade math for a long time. And my biggest excitement with math here is pre-assessments. So I always use pre-assessments in my classroom. But you only get so much from a quick multiple choice pre-assessment. And when you're trying to make determinations on how can I differentiate my lessons based on a pre-assessment, it's pretty important to not really truly understand how much do my students know already. So if I'm going to send students off to do a project rather than do what we're doing in class because they show mastery, I want to really know that they show mastery. And I feel like Snorkl is going to make that much easier to do as a teacher, to be able to watch and listen to them explain something rather than just take a quick 5-question multiple choice quiz that determines whether or not you get to do a project, right? So just for example, I tried this out with geometry, just the good old question of why is a square a rectangle and not vice versa. I just feel like having students speak and share their thoughts on that ahead of time before a lesson would be really powerful in seeing what they truly understand. And then I just put a little note as far as the math is concerned. I tried another activity where I put a bunch of different pictures of items off Amazon on Snorkl, and then the students were supposed to estimate the prices of each item and then the total cost, and then explain the reasoning. And the only thing I noticed was sometimes the numbers, right? When it's trying to pull data from pictures and try to put numbers to pictures, you got to be really careful there. So I kind of highlighted on that little video on the screen. It's not playing, but just kind of going back to make sure you double check those types of things as you would with all things AI. And then, and I put at the bottom there as well, guided discourse. This is, I noticed the option that after you create the assignment, you can allow students to see each other's work and then also comment. And I feel like that's huge, especially in math, when you're, doing a problem-solving problem, you're trying to put up on the screen, okay, what was the solution you agreed with? Why do you agree with this? I feel like Snorkl is perfect for that. All right, next, real quick, go real fast. So for science, really excited about science and Snorkl, especially since there's so many, diagrams and different things that students are having to interact with in science. And just one quick idea I threw it together and tried out was I put a picture of a bunch of different habitats. And in the instructions I told students to circle one in red, one in blue. And then you have to describe or talk about the differences between those two. And Snorkl did beautifully with that. And then I also thought just a kind of a fun idea would be students could, if they're still doing science fairs, I know some places do it, some don't, you can kind of use it as a pitching tool where they can have a conversation with the AI and share what is their idea for their science fair, what would their process be, their procedure, and then let the AI kind of have a conversation back with them, kind of walking them through how to improve their science fair experiment. And then lastly, I was thinking about social emotional learning. So that's a big topic I know in my 2 schools, and just trying to find ways that you could harness this to address that. And so I was thinking of possibly using it as like a journal, like a morning meeting or an end meeting or closing meeting, to close out your day, where students can talk to it and just say, hey, this is how my day went. And for the most part, the feedback was good. It was pretty general for when I tried it, but it was at least kind of motivating and encouraging to the student just to have someone, like another voice, to listen to them. And I really loved, and this would be something you'd have to obviously have a conversation with your class and let them know, hey, this is a journal, but it's a journal that I can see, right? I love the insights that the AI brings up at the end, where it can kind of give you some ideas of, okay, a lot of students were talking about, maybe they were having trouble on the playground, right? Maybe that would be a good insight for me as a teacher to address that the next day at a class meeting. But anyways, those are my quick boom, quick brain dump of ideas on how I might try to use these this year with teachers. So
that was rapid fire, and that was amazing. Thanks so much for sharing it. I think the use case around pre-assessment, I think is such a great one. Like, there's so much you can do, obviously, as formative assessment or post later on. But even before learning, there's opportunities to really invite students to share and even go back and look at their previous Snorkl recording. I think is a great opportunity, as well as what you said around the self-reflection piece. So some awesome opportunities. So thanks so much for sharing. We're going to jump to Eric next. And Eric, great to have you here. And thanks so much.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited. I do have sunglasses. I mean, I could put those on if that helps, but now I don't know if I can see. It's a little too dark. So I think I will leave those off. Let me go ahead and share my screen so I don't have to worry about that, and then I can start talking. Let me find the right screen. I've got a couple monitors plugged in here. I believe this is the one that I want to share. Give that a moment to see if that can get added into the mix there. Should be pop. There we go. Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for letting me hang out with you guys here for a few minutes. I'm going to share two things really quick during my slam portion. The first is when it comes to snorkel, where I tend to talk about it most of the time is in teacher training. I don't work with students directly myself. I am a tech coach, so I train teachers, and there's a session that I do all about the misuse of AI. If you do want to look into those resources, bit.ly/Kurtz-AI misuse will get you there. So that's a whole like hour-long, 90-minute-long session I do on addressing potential misuses of AI. Because as much as I'm always positive and I love all the amazing things we can do with AI to help teachers and help students, it's not responsible to avoid, the potential problems. We do need to address those and talk about them. Well, Snorkl shows up a lot of times, well, all the time in that session, because one of the things I end up talking about is ways we can help address potential cheating. And there's a bunch of things to that. It's not like one little answer. It's like a whole wide range of things. But in that process, I'll jump down to the slide that I do that on. One of the things I talk about is involving more oral assessments. That can be something that can help. It can be an adjustment to our assignments and assessments, so that it's not that it's impossible to cheat, but it's harder to just copy and paste from an AI when you're being told to put this in your own words or explain it or talk through it. So we know how powerful that is. The challenge is it's not practical without technology. If you've got 125 students and they each give a 2-minute response, that's 4 hours you've got to listen to. That's really difficult. Where with Snorkl, it can go through and do that first pass on all of them, put them into the categories correct and incorrect and the different levels of explanation. So you can go back in and say, well, these are the ones I need to listen to and go in a little bit deeper on. So that was my first quick heads up, is that I tend to talk about Snorkl a lot in that session on AI misuse. So definitely feel free to check that out. But because this is a slam, I wanted to, in the spirit of a slam, do something on the fringe and do something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a use that I know it's not officially a use that we maybe support Snorkl for, or that the Snorkl does, but I think it's an option. It's something that we can kind of push the boundaries on and see, and that is assessing fluency. Because we're having students speak, what if we could leverage that to get at least a feel? We're not talking, thorough, but a feel for student fluency. And so what I've done is I went ahead and I created in my library, I created a reading fluency assignment here. And basically what it is, I simply just put a blurb, a couple of sentences here, and I said, read this following passage aloud. So that's the assignment, is to have it read aloud. And then for Snorkl, I said, hey, this is language arts, elementary school, gave them the same directions. And here's what I want. The student should read the text exactly as it is written. The student should pronounce the words correctly on the first try, read all the words in the proper order, and not skip any words. So with that said, let's pull a student over and let's try it really quick here. So what I'm going to do, and I'll do this real fast here, and I will be making mistakes. So just so you know, heads up, I'm going to intentionally make some mistakes here. I'm going to hit record and I'm going to, read this, and I'll throw in a few errors as I go. And I'm not really going to be drawing on the screen. So in this case, I'm not taking advantage of the markup tools. In this case, we're just recording the voice. Let's try this out real quick here. Emily loves balloons, even her favorite one with a shiny ribbon. On a sunny day, she took it to the park. Sadly, a strong wind blew and tugged at her balloon. It slipped out of her hand and flied up into the sky. "Oh no," cried Emily. She watched as her balloon dived higher and higher. Emily felt a little sad, but then she smiled. "Maybe my balloon is going on an adventure," she said. Emily continued to play in the park, hopping, hoping her balloon was having a wonderful adventure. All right, there we go. And of course, they could, play it back and listen to it themselves, but we'll just go ahead and submit that and give it a moment to process. So while that's processing, let me show you. Obviously, I tested this a couple of times on some other accounts, so we'll let that process there. But over here, as the teacher, if I go in to my class here and I go into that particular assignment on reading fluency, you'll see, here's one that I did earlier, where again I made some mistakes, and you can see over here it's saying, okay, that wasn't correct, got a 2 out of 4, and it gave some very specific areas of like where the student had made a mistake, putting in different words, saying flied instead of floated, things like that. Here's an example where I did it twice. And you can come up here and, of course, see the 2 different responses. The first, I didn't do very well, only got a 1 out of 4, but then I can always record it a second time and try to improve those things. Let's see how the student's response came in this time. Again, very similar. We've got a couple of words that got changed out. We've got, again, some things that were mispronounced. We've got an extra word put in there. And so now the student could, of course, hit respond again and go back through. Now they've had a little bit of instruction there on some areas, and so they could read it each time and get that improvement on there. So again, not necessarily something that initially Snorkl is designed to do, but I thought, hey, it's a slam, so let's try something a little bit different there. And there are a lot of wonderful tools out there that do help with fluency. Microsoft has some, and other tools from other companies, but I thought this might be a neat way to see how Snorkl could stretch a little bit into this area. There you go.
I love it. Appreciate it, Eric. Definitely a different, unique way. I think we've got a lot of folks who are interested in this, and something we're continuing to work on is how can we even better support fluency. And so excited to keep digging in there. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing, Eric.
Absolutely.
Larissa, let's throw it over to you.
All right. So I get to follow the awesome Eric Kurtz. Thanks so much. All right. I don't know how I got into this lineup, but thank you. All right. Let me present and share my screen. Is it going to let me? Let's hope. There we go. Is it working? Good. Awesome. All right, let me share. Oops. Okay, so my name is Larissa Black, and we're going to do a quick dip. You notice that I didn't put the snorkel stuff on. I put my hat on because I'm more of a beach girl, not an ocean girl. So here we go. As the student perspective, I really wanted to focus on, because I'm an online teacher. I teach earth science. I'm looking at a lot of these things from the student perspective. So I've been a science teacher for 16 years, founder of TeachWise AI, also an EduGuardian. If you're not one yet, please go to eduguardian5.com and sign up. I have my master's degree in science education. I'm passionate about tech tools, and I do photography. So it's the end of the summer right now, right? I hate to say that, but I start back to school on Thursday. So for a lot of us, we're at the end of the summer. And we had all summer to enjoy maybe the pool or the ocean. But here is something that everyone has their own opinion about. Do you slowly get into the water, or do you jump right in? Just who cares what the temperature is? You're just going to jump in because going slowly might be a little more difficult, right? I am going to share this. I want you guys to see how Snorkl works from the student end. And since we have a couple more minutes than I expected, I'm going to take up some of that time. Thank you for having that extra time here. So let me actually copy and paste that right into here as well. So you can click on the link. What you're going to want to do, though, when you go to this link and try it out, you are going to want to actually pause, or like not pause, but put YouTube kind of on silent, because you're going to be actually answering the questions like the students. So let me show you what it's going to look like. Okay, so you are going to click on that link that I sent directly there in the chat. Then you will see, okay, log in with Google or log in with Microsoft. Hopefully you're already logged in. Hopefully you have a Snorkl account already. If not, it takes seconds. It does not take very long. Then you are going to click on Start Response, and you will see a picture just like what I had in the Canva presentation. And I want you to follow the directions there. I want you to circle the option of how you would prefer to get into the water. And then I want you to use your power of persuasion. So persuade others that your choice is the best choice and why it is the best choice. So give me some logical reasoning, some supporting evidence, or any other kind of compelling argument. You're going to record, draw, and submit. So I'm going to give you guys like a couple minutes to be able to do this. And let me start the timer. Show timer. We do not need 5 minutes. We'll do 2 minutes. And should I put music on for those of you who are just going to hang out for a little bit? We're going to have dramatic music. Oops. I don't have my double screen working right now, so there we go. Okay, sorry, I'm not able to see the, I'm not able to see this at the same time. Hold on 1 second. I think somebody asked for the code. Here is the code again. Oh, I see John and Jeff has got it all set up. Oh, it's not letting me share that because I'm not the one in charge. Gotcha. Okay. I'm not used to not being in charge of the whole thing. So, all right. I've given you guys a little bit of time. I'm going to continue on because, you know, I only have, 2 more minutes. So feel free to do that on your own time if you want to, but I just want to let you know the settings that I had put on this example. You will be able to collaborate with other students. So you'll be able to see other students' work and you can comment on that. And then I did use the setup for AI feedback so that you would get automatic approval for that. Like you will see AI feedback immediately. I don't have to approve it. But if you're one of those teachers who's like, I'm not sure I really want AI to give students information without me seeing it first, you can turn on to where you have to approve it first, which I love. Okay, real quick, these are some of my students' answers from this year. Again, I'm an earth science teacher, so we're really looking a lot at graphs and interpreting graphs. And we're talking at the end of the year, we're talking about carbon dioxide levels and how that relationship to Antarctic temperatures occurs. And this is just some of the student answers. Now, I'm not playing it because I didn't get approval from the students to play their voices, but you can see that whatever they answered, they did a good job, and you've got that grow and glow type of feedback happening. And then this one is a student who didn't really understand the connection, and that's okay because they just didn't get it yet. And I don't know if anybody watched Sesame Street and loves Sesame Street, but the power of yet is forever. It's not just for kids, right? So it's giving them some feedback saying, hey, it's okay, you don't get this yet, but let's talk about what that pattern is and how that relationship happens. All right, so there it is, 3:25. We still got the 5 minutes left. Thank you guys so much. I am going to stop sharing now.
That was awesome, Lisa. And I see several responses going in there. I think people did get your first link, or some people found it, and
Some people did. Okay.
yeah. So lots of responses are in that
Thank
document.
you.
So thanks so much for sharing. That was really great. And I love that you also had a chance to use it with your students this last year and share that. We get the honor here of rounding off this time with Stephen, and pass it over to you to share. And if any of you are on our Facebook group, you'll see Stephen has just been an awesome contributor to the Snorkl Facebook community, and just want to say a special thank you and shout out for all that you've done on that group page, and pass it over to you.
Thank you. So I do weird stuff and think weird. I'm a special education teacher, so that's where I get all of my weird ideas and thoughts from. So one idea I thought of was a self-reflection. So we all know we like students to reflect on their own learning. So this follows the good old Southern philosophy of you do you boo, meaning you don't have to do things exactly as you see them. This isn't like a perfect Canva presentation like I saw so many of you do. This is just simply my thoughts of what it could look like. So I have one set up for behavior throughout Monday through Friday. You can set up for 1 day, 2 days, however you like. You can have a different scale. I thought a scale from 0 to 2 is easy for students. 0 meaning, you know what, I had a very bad day. I prevented people from doing their work. 1 is, teacher told me to stop once. I got things done. I did okay. And 2 meaning, I did everything teacher asked me to. I was a model student. And then we go on to, I put the standard that was worked on during the week. I just copy and paste the standard. This is about ratios in 6th grade in the state of North Carolina. That's where that comes from. And so I also took that standard and I broke it down using actually never AI tool when it comes to unpacking standards. And they came up with 3 different areas. So these are like learning targets. So if you're making your lesson throughout the week, these are probably the 3 areas that you were hitting. Identifying ratios, find equivalent, and interpret unit ratios. And so the first bit is I did great with what? And so they could circle and saying, well, I did great with identifying ratios. I really struggled to find equivalent ratios. It's just there so they can give their better answer to, because I thought if they didn't have an idea of what to say, they may struggle with what I did well with and what I did weak on. So I just put some keywords there to help them along. And at the end, I put, what is the goal you have for yourself next week? Is it, to do better subtraction, could be better in one of these areas if the unit continues. And of course, how can a teacher or family help? So I made that. I put in a nice little Google drawing, which I'm going to share on Facebook at the end. So join the Facebook group and you get all of these things. So what I did, I got as an image, then I went to Snorkl, then I put it on as a student reflection. So I put it up, I did the AI to do feedback. And then as you can see, I did a fair job. And I realized that there was the texting tool. I'm like, oh, well, I could type it a lot better than trying to write it on the mouse. And so I did all those things. had a fair job, missed a mark on some things, did great with other things. Yay me. Now, where you could go from here as a teacher is actually go up here and you can see the download. What happens when you download is it becomes a video. So in this video, I download it to my computer. Then I actually upload it into a Google Drive, a class of Snorkl. And so I labeled this 11 student test. And then I have an individual student folder. I put their video on. So now you can hear the video. And now it's there. So it's saved in Google Drive. That's their video. Now it did not, as you can see in the video, it did not save the feedback. So I actually just made a document. I labeled it week 1. So the video feedback and the Snorkl feedback line up. And now I just copied and paste the little sections together. It might be easier just to actually take a snippet and then screenshot and then paste it on right there. But I just put on document that way. And then I made a folder so I could put the students in the weeks. So every week of feedback, I put it on. And what's more importantly is, since this is a student folder, what you could do is actually share it with parents. You can share the link with parents. You can send it as an email to parents saying, hey, this is what your student felt this week. And you can have meaningful student conversations with their parents, or it could lead up to like a flip pre-conference situation. So it's all there. So they talk to their student before they go to parent-teacher conference, and your work is almost all done. So that is, I got as quickly as I can. 3:30. So there you go.
Amazing. Huge thank you, Stephen. I think there's awesome things there around getting students to self-reflect, and then ways, like you said, to leverage that for conferences and conversations. We've got the portfolio view on the student side of Snorkl, so it saves students work over time. And we think there's some really rich opportunities. We're excited to explore more about ways to support things exactly like what you're talking about right now. Is how do you share that with parents in meaningful ways? How do you leverage that for self-reflection in meaningful ways? And really excited. I want to once again thank all 5 of you. Kim had to jump off early, but I really appreciate you all sharing the different ways that you're thinking about Snorkl and sharing it with all the teachers and leaders and folks who are watching today. And yeah, appreciate you being here on World Snorkl Day.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, great to be here. With that, we're going to jump into our final session of the day. And I am going to figure out here, after 3.5 hours, I'm like,
I'm just going to stay with you on here, John. I'm just going to be like your wingman. Here we go. Let's do
I
it.
appreciate that. You can stay as long as you want.
Good.
Careful, you're signing yourself up.
Here's my little snorkel guy. Like, by the
that's
way,
so
I
cool.
just thought being ridiculous over here.
And let's see, I'm 3.5 hours in, and we are going to wrap this up with our final session of the day. I'm going to invite my co-founder Jeff here on to join me. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's up?
How are you doing?
Just dried off. Had a nice swim.
Yeah.
Wonderful summer day. No.
Out in San Diego.
Yeah.
Jeff has been following along and commenting in the chat. You may have seen, but we are really excited and really honored to just be able to host this day with all of you joining in. We had over 600 people sign up for today, and I know we'll post this online afterwards. People have joined in throughout. And so it's just been a tremendous privilege to get to spend so much time with you all. I am going to pull up again just a couple of slides here, but this final session is really about bringing Snorkl to your school or to your district and the ways that we can support. We have had the honor of joining and partnering with schools all over the country and actually internationally over this past school year. And we've learned a ton from that experience. And so we're excited to share with you a little bit about what we've heard from some of our partner schools over this past year. And also some of the ways that we can support you in bringing this to your school or to your campus. And so if you're a teacher, there's things for you to get out of this session, but also if you're a school leader, an instructional coach, have a lot to share with you here as well. Just really quick, if you're just joining us and you're scratching your head around what is this Snorkl thing, just a little background. One of the things that we both really believe and a lot of the folks that we work with is that our students have amazing ideas that are worthy of celebrating. We think that student thinking is rich and deserves a place in the center of the classroom. And at the same time, we know that as teachers, both Jeff and I were teachers, it's hard to get around and talk to every single student one-on-one. It's hard to know exactly how they're thinking about solving a problem or how they're responding to what we talked about in the lesson. And so we built Snorkl really in collaboration with a lot of teachers that we were talking with around how can we better support students in giving them immediate personalized feedback. And so we leverage AI, as you know, to give students that personalized feedback on their work. And really central and important to how we do that is we allow students to express the richness of their thinking through multimodal input. We give them a digital whiteboard, and we allow them to record their voice, record their drawings, record with text, and capture the richness of student thinking in all those unique ways and leverage the AI to support. I want to pause here and give you just a little bit of background on our classroom experience. And Jeff, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but would you share maybe a little bit about your elementary school teaching experience? And I'll share a little bit about my experience teaching high school, because I think that's really foundational for how it is that we really set upon this path and where we are with Snorkl today.
Yeah, of course. So I taught elementary school, as John said. I taught 5th grade. We were out in Las Vegas. And, you know, it's funny, when I first started thinking about the idea of teaching, I was just like, oh, I have to be a high school teacher. I don't know how I could possibly teach kids like that young in elementary school. But it's funny because after getting the opportunity to teach at the elementary school level, I'm the complete opposite. I could not imagine teaching older kids. I think that those 4th and 5th graders, they're old enough to do all sorts of content, all sorts of activities, but they just bring a spirit that just is incredible. And I love that. It motivated me every day. I used a lot of, I used a lot of technology in the classroom. I was always experimenting with how you can use tools in a way that was really instructionally relevant. And it's funny because like some of the things that I thought lacked at the time were a big inspiration for a lot of the ideas that we've incorporated into Snorkl, which is that, you know, great learning, a great classroom, kids are up, they're moving, they're talking, they're using their voice to learn and to digest what they're doing. But then also in my classroom, I had kids that were brand new to country, and that's incredibly challenging. And it was just really hard to figure out, how do I create this learning experience that I'm creating for all my other students that help them feel equally as engaged? And I mean, it was just a lot of those insights, a lot of those things. I've been out of the classroom now for a while, working as an engineer. Those are the things that stuck with me. And, you know, when I think about my role now, I do all of the coding in the platform, which is also very fun. I think of it as if, you know, imagine if you could just have the ability to build anything as a teacher, like what would you build? And I've tried to be like kind of that other side of teachers, that kind of engineer and person that could just translate those ideas into a working application, which is really where Snorkl is right now, I think, or at least getting there.
Yeah. I've only been out of the classroom for about 12 months. I was in the classroom, not this past school year, but the school year before that, and taught high school math. And I knew that I wanted my math class to be a place where student thinking was really at the center of what we were doing, right? It's math class is not about answer getting. I want to support students to express the richness of how they're solving problems, how they're approaching the task that we're talking about. And then I want to be able to respond to it and actually validate what they're doing or give them feedback on what they're doing and correct them if they're off track. And so Snorkl came about really in an effort to do that, to capture student thinking in rich ways and to leverage AI to give them really personalized, immediate feedback. And we do this both because we come from the classroom. We really believe that our students have rich thinking that's worth celebrating, that's worth honoring. And we know how valuable feedback can be for students and how much time that can take for teachers. And so another one of our motivators is really, how do we make something that fits really easily into the teacher workflow and can save them a lot of time?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This past year, we joined with thousands of schools across the country and even internationally now. Shout out to if there's any folks in Singapore and South Korea, New Zealand, Peru, England, just watching this around the globe. But we've had the honor of working with schools and with teachers, getting a lot of feedback and hearing about the awesome impact that Snorkel has had on their classrooms and on learning. We heard from teachers this year that they heard more of their student thinking and more of their students' explanations than they have ever heard in the past, that they've seen in their students grow in confidence, both because they get that immediate feedback, and it's not as scary to explain something maybe to AI as it might be to have to explain to the entire class, though it's certainly good practice to prepare for something like that. And then we've also heard just about the power of that immediate feedback, right? Teachers telling us that it has allowed them to scale the amount of feedback they can give to students on really meaningful work in a way that would otherwise be impossible, and really support students in practicing their communication. So we have teachers coming to Snorkel for all of these reasons and many more. We know that Snorkel can support new to country students and English language learners because students can record in over 50 different languages. They can also get feedback in all of those different languages as well. It encourages a growth mindset because we allow students to re-record and improve their thinking. That's something that's really important to us as former teachers. And then, of course, the saving time piece is huge. Teaching is a really demanding and complex job, and we want to support that and honor that and make a tool that's really powerful to amplify teachers' place and their impact in the classroom. The way that Snorkel works is we give teachers a digital whiteboard on which they can place a question or a prompt, and they can assign it to their students. And so we have a library of thousands of pre-created questions. We've been working hard all summer to add more content to that library. We just released Earth and Space Science last week, is it now in the library? We just released geometry content to the library, and we're constantly adding more. We're also working on adding more partnerships to create more great content there, to make that getting started process even easier. Teachers can put whatever type of question they want on that prompt. They then share it with their students, and students sign in with their Google account or their Microsoft account, and they can record their thinking, and they can show their explanation on that whiteboard. And then the AI analyzes both their whiteboard and their verbal explanation to give them personalized feedback. We've got teachers who are using this right now as a formative assessment tool, as an exit ticket, as a do first. We've got teachers who are using it as a station rotation around the classroom or as homework. And so it's really versatile and can really expand the whole K through 12 experience in any content and grade level. I am, instead of showing and doing a live demo here, I actually have a recording just for efficiency. And some of you may have seen this a little bit earlier on in our sessions today. But if you haven't seen like a walkthrough of the Snorkel platform, I want to give you just a quick 2.5-minute overview of what happens in the Snorkel platform, and then talk a little bit more about how you can bring this to your school. Welcome to Snorkel, the multimodal tool for immediate feedback on student thinking. Here's how it works. Our homepage is at snorkel.app, where teachers can sign in and create an account. From the teacher homepage, you can create classes and share activities with your students. We have a library filled with hundreds of rich pre-created activities, or teachers can quickly and easily create their own activities using their own questions or curriculum materials. When teachers share an assignment with their students, students are given a digital whiteboard on which to share and record their response. Students can show their work visually as well as explain it verbally, and Snorkel will capture the richness of their thinking and explanation. Students can record in any language, making Snorkel a really rich tool for giving all students access. After students submit their work, our AI analyzes their explanation and provides students with personalized time-stamped feedback on their response. In the feedback on the right-hand side, you'll see that the AI has marked the student work as correct or incorrect, given a score on a 0 through 4 rubric, and provides students with personalized feedback unique to their strategy. We try to praise what's going right in student thinking and offer them prompting and questioning to improve their thinking, just like a great teacher would if they were able to sit down one-on-one with every student. Students can use this feedback immediately to re-record and improve their thinking and improve their response. On the teacher side, Snorkel gives teachers rich instructional insights from across the class. As students submit their responses, AI automatically categorizes the student work and attaches a label for how strong the student's explanation was. Teachers can quickly review a response by taking their cursor and scrolling over the video, or jumping in to see the actual feedback that the students got. In addition to viewing individual student work, Snorkel leverages AI to analyze the class as a whole. In the Insights tab, Snorkel gives teachers summaries of performance from across the class, including examples of top exemplars and trending errors and mistakes. We share with teachers direct qualitative descriptions of what's happening in student thinking, providing them with support and with figuring out instructional next steps. Snorkel can be leveraged with any grade level and any content area where you want students to get immediate personalized feedback. For example, we might ask students to analyze a short reading passage and answer questions about the text. Snorkel transforms learning by providing students with the kind of personalized, immediate feedback that's otherwise impossible to scale across the class. Dive in at snorkel.app. I think one of the things that has been so fun about today for us is getting a chance to hear from so many teachers in different content areas about ways that they have leveraged Snorkel in the classroom and or are excited to leverage Snorkel in the classroom in the future. We have in Snorkel some pre-created sample assignments. And so if you haven't checked out Snorkel yourself yet, you can go to snorkel.app. You can create a free teacher account and you can try out any of our sample assignments. You can also try out anything in the library or create your own. With that free sample account, you can actually use Snorkel with your students this fall, and we're really excited to support you to do so. One of the things that we know is oftentimes a step in that process is getting Google Trusted Access enabled. And so if at your campus, if you use Google Single Sign-On, and you're going to want to reach out to your tech coach or leader to make sure that Google Trusted Access is enabled so that your students can sign in. If you need support with that at all, we are happy to support. Snorkel has really, really great privacy and security for student responses. We're iKeep Safe certified as COPA and FERPA compliant, and we're really proud of the ways that we protect student data and privacy. Also, if you have questions about that, we're happy to answer them at any time and sign a custom DPA with your school or with your district. Beyond individual teacher accounts, we also are excited to support schools and districts that are really interested in digging in and supporting their team with leveraging Snorkel this year. And so we're really excited to announce today the Snorkel pilot program for this school year. We're calling it Lighthouse Leaders. And we're calling it that because we think that there's such an important role for schools and districts to play in sort of leading the way, lighting the way for how we leverage AI in powerful ways that are really aligned with the goals we have for our students. We also know that that doesn't happen overnight. Oftentimes tech tools take some time to experiment and to build that capacity. And so we want to support schools and districts in doing exactly that. And so if you are a school leader or a district leader interested in bringing Snorkel to your school, I encourage you to apply for our pilot program, the Lighthouse Leaders program, that you can find on our plans page right now at snorkel.app. This includes unlimited access for your school, your teachers, your students this year, unlimited assignments, and our support and rolling it out for your campus and for your team. If you have any questions, we'd love to talk to you more about it, but we're really excited to support you in getting started and really build that capacity at your campus. One of the ways that we do that is we offer training and PD resources, both for you to share with your folks, but also happy to jump on a call with your team this fall and share Snorkel in a PD session. Our team is largely composed of former teachers. And so we get what great PD looks like, and we want to make sure that we can offer something that's engaging to your folks. We often have to invite teachers to try out Snorkel assignments in that session because we know how powerful that can be when when teachers see and experience that immediate feedback. And then also as part of Lighthouse Leaders, we want to continue to support the schools and districts that are partnering with us. And so we have ongoing sessions and information throughout this fall and throughout the school year. That includes some webinars. We'll have different webinars this fall around different topics, supporting English language learners, leveraging Snorkl for formative assessment, mastery-based grading with Snorkl, as well as community meetings where we're inviting folks to share all the awesome resources that they are building and the ways that they are leveraging Snorkl. We have a pretty active social media community that's currently growing, and we're really excited to have you be part of that. And then as a Lighthouse Leader participant, you can also lock in some exclusive pricing for the following school year, 25-26. Jeff, anything you want to make sure that we cover here that you want to add in? I know we're super excited about this program and how it can support schools and districts with adoption. But yeah, anything you want to add in there?
No, I think you said it really well. Like you said, we're former teachers. When we get up in the morning, we think about you. We think about the job that you have to do. We think about your kids and your students and our former students. And I just want to say it's so special to be able to work with you all. And it's really quite an honor. So
yeah, I think the things that we've heard back from teachers and students this year has been really encouraging. And so it's super fun to be in conversation with you, especially as you're using the platform. We love to get your feedback and your insights as well as we continue to grow and expand. Once again, our website is snorkl.app, snorkl.app. There you can create a free account. You can reach out to us about a quote or bringing Snorkl to your school or your district, sign up for that pilot program for this year, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you. Thank you so much for joining us here. We've been on this call for the last 4 hours, and I don't know how there's been a lot of people here who have been on for the last 4 hours. I don't know how many of you have been here for this entire thing, but if you have, huge shout out to you, a huge thank you to you. And we're looking forward to talking to you. So if we haven't met you yet, if we haven't talked, reach out to us and we'd love to connect more. Hope that you have an awesome rest of your Tuesday on this World Snorkl Day. We are going to host more events here in the future. And then, of course, we'll be back for World Snorkl Day 2025. So get ready for it. All right. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.